am I waiting? All right. Oh, Lord. Well, folks, for some reason, my board has froze up again. It gave me a wait.
Oh, we're live, Mac. We're live. Come on, let's get it going.
Jack, be quiet. For some reason, the board froze up, folks, so we're going to go ahead and just start the show today. Welcome to the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat Big Football Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, and Jim Jeffcoat from the former Dallas Cowboy, two-time Super Bowl champion. And, of course, today we're going to be giving our predictions. We'll have Keith Anglin from TGI Sports Talk. We'll have Robert Butler with some of the big NFL stories. And we'll also have in Pags, Jimmy Pags, the Philly sports guy. All of them will be giving their predictions. But let's start it off, guys. College football has started. I want to go through the Big Ten with you first, the top 10 teams, give you some scores. Keith Angle will be in a few minutes, and maybe we'll go over a little bit more college football with him. But let's start with the top 10. You had Michigan beating East Carolina 30-3 without Jim Harbaugh, correct. No difference there with him or without him. They have a pretty easy schedule, the first four teams. So, as expected, Michigan does beat East Carolina 30-3. Ohio State beats Indiana 23-3. Not a lot of offense from Ohio State. I don't know how good Indiana's defense is this year, but I expected a little bit more points from them. Washington, this was supposed to be one of the better games out there, ends up beating Boise State 56-19.
It was done for a half, and then Washington controlled the second half.
Correct. Georgia plays now. Jim, you played college and you coach college, and I understand that they give these teams money to play these bigger schools.
Yes, that is
true. But what I don't understand is why Georgia and Alabama, they're making a big deal out of them beating these schools. They talked about the quarterback, for instance, from Alabama, running for 3 touchdowns. Right. But he played against a community college. I mean, so what? Who cares? He's not playing a great team.
The sponsors can, Mac. There's so many college games on at the same time. I'm channel scanning yesterday, and I'm seeing about 10, 12 games I can watch. I have a choice. But when you see the name Georgia, you turn to Georgia that game. You turn to the Alabama game. Unless you have a particular interest in a school, those are the ones you're going to watch. You're going to watch Georgia, Alabama.
And also what they do is the reason those schools play the teams like Georgia and Alabama is they're funding their athletic programs by those schools because they'll get $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million to play those schools and to get beat, like you said, by 50 points. Sometimes that can be dangerous because you're not going to talk about it, but Baylor and Texas State.
Jim, it could be good for recruiting too. One of the weakest schools could point to potential recruits and say, look, we play Georgia, we play Alabama. You have a chance to show what you can do on the big stage.
Exactly. But the problem is that when you get in those games, you're going to probably get beat up.
They don't shine in those games. I mean, Tennessee Martin, what the heck kind of school? What is that?
I agree.
I've never heard of it. Middle Tennessee. I mean, come on. I mean, and like I said, I understand they're going to get some money for doing this. I just wish that, this is the mighty SEC playing community colleges.
This has always been this way. And then in the middle of the season, they do it again, if you realize. So I agree with you 100%, but they're trying to get ready for conference play, the SEC, because they're going to be playing in the LSUs, the Alabamas, the South Carolinas, South Carolina lost yesterday. So,
Yes, they did. In fact, here's our college football guru. We'll have him in. We'll also get his picks today. A couple and one note about the Patriots. Keith, as I was saying with Jim and Jack, I know these schools get a lot of money for playing these teams, the Georgias and Alabamas, but it's so one-sided. Jack says he tunes to watch it. I don't even bother watching it because I know what's going to happen. There's no way these schools have a chance at it, maybe even scoring against these guys.
Yeah, look, and I'll watch it just until the blood starts really pouring out. But this isn't new. This has been going on for a decade.
And that's what I said.
And I don't have a problem with it here in week 1. I really don't. You know where I have a problem with it? In week 11 when Alabama plays Samford or somebody. Then I got a problem with it. I just feel like that late in the season, we ought to get better. We, as fans, probably ought to get better matchups than that. I get it because I heard Jim was saying as I came in, and I think that's accurate. They are getting ready for a pretty grueling schedule in the SEC, to use that example. So it's going to happen. And by the way, we have to take into account these other schools that go there to get the crap beat out of them count on that payday too. So
that's what I said.
Yeah,
right,
you can't just discount that. So
it's crazy. Washington beats up Boise State. Keith, kind of surprised with that one, 56.
Yeah, not surprised at the outcome of the win for Washington, as they're really good. I was very surprised at the 40-point spread. I mean, Boise State has been hyped up as getting back close to where they were in the early 2000s, where they really took a step ahead as a program, and they've had a little fall off in the last decade. And last year they played better, but very surprised at the and maybe it's just that's how good Washington is. Michael Penix is really good. He was really good last year. He's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate this year, obviously. And I think it might be an indication of how good Washington is.
There are some sneaky good schools that people don't talk about. Utah, that guy might be one of the best coaches in college football.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is, no question. I played there. I mean, I didn't play there. I've coached there. And that is a difficult place to play.
They've had the misfortune of, until this year, they got off and had a nice win against Florida the other night without Cam Rising playing, by the way.
Right.
And maybe one of their best defensive players. Last couple of years, they've had some hype. Last year, especially, and they went out and really laid an egg at the opening week.
Yeah, until they got to USC, and they'll beat USC again this year.
They will if USC doesn't play better defense than I've seen so far.
The style of offense, and that's the difficult part in that air raid offense. It's not good for defenses.
Well, Keith, let's finish this up. As I said, Washington beat Boise State, Georgia 48-7, Alabama 56-7. Also, Penn State beats West Virginia 38-15. Surprised at that big of a score?
No, not necessarily. I don't think in that game there were some surprises yesterday. In a day full of upsets, everybody. Jim was talking about teams that don't get credit, but there's a team that's really been hyped as a team from the outside this year. Texas Tech has been hyped up in a lot of places, has taken a big step forward this year. They get beat, and I thought they'd get beat last night. I actually called that, getting beat at Wyoming last night.
It doesn't shock me, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I'm sorry, Keith.
No, you're good.
Only thing I was going to say is I don't know if you guys have ever been to Laramie, Wyoming. It's higher altitude than the University of Colorado, first of all. And he is the head coach, was the one who won all those games at North Dakota State. Yeah. They know how to win. Yeah. They know how to win.
They've had some good football programs through the years. Just, don't hear about them. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, Keith, before we finish, we go too far with you, and Robert comes in and kicks you off. Let's go with your picks here. We're going to go with the division winners, wild cards, who you expect to be in the championship from each division, each conference, and then who's your Super Bowl team and who's going to win. So in the AFC, Keith, who do you got as your division winners?
I have the Jets, Jack.
Wow.
Steelers.
Okay, Jets.
Jaguars and Chiefs.
Jaguars and Chiefs. Okay, you got the Steelers, the Jags, and the Jets. Who do you got for your wild card teams, Keith?
I have the Patriots, the Bengals, and the Chargers.
Natty and the Chargers. All right. And who do you got going to championship from those teams in the AFC, Keith?
Hurts my heart to say it, the New York Jets.
Holy good God, another one. What is going on out there, Jim? I don't know what's happening.
It's a really good team. I've said this before, just to elaborate a little bit on why I picked the Jets. The Jets, they're loaded. The only unless they're the San Diego Padres of the NFL, chemistry is the only thing can beat them. If things start to go off the rail and guys get thin skin or Aaron Rodgers goes off one of his, weird tangents, that might derail this team. I'd love to see the train wreck. I'm going to root against this pick, by the way.
But Keith, if I'm the Jets, if I'm going to have an injury concern, we're not talking about Aaron Rodgers right now. The Jets don't have an elite number 2 receiver. If something should happen to Garrett Wilson, all of a sudden they don't have a true weapon for Aaron Rodgers. Other teams, elite teams like the Bengals, maybe the Dolphins, they have 2 elite receivers. The Eagles, 2 elite receivers. The Jets just have Garrett Wilson, and then everyone else is kind of so-so.
Well, they got guys that he loved in Green Bay, and Lazard and Cobb, and I like McCole Hardman. I always liked him in Kansas City. He always seemed to come up with a big play when they were in big games. So while I think they don't have a guy that's a big name, I think they've got some depth at that position that will get. Look, they lose Wilson. That's a huge loss, obviously. But I think they do have enough guys to overcome that, at least in the short term.
Good morning to Rick out there. How you doing, Rick?
Morning, Rick.
People viewing, if you want to put your picks up, I'll pop them up on the screen. Good to see you, Rick. So NFC, who do you got for your division winners in the NFC, Keith?
Eagles, Bears, Bucks, Seahawks.
And Seattle. Interesting.
Did I hear you right, Keith? I'm having a problem with the audio here. I mean, some of those names I heard, there's something off with the audio. The Bears and the Bucks. Okay, I mean, let me get it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for saying there was
not hearing well now.
I like the Bears to take a big step forward this year, and I don't think that division is going to be that good. I think the Vikings take a step back. I do have them in a wild card.
Okay, let's get your wild cards, Keith.
Giants. Jim's not going to like me today.
Why not?
49ers. Vikings. 49ers. I had the Cowboys out.
Wow.
You have the right to your wrong opinion. I respect
that. And I'm very, by the way, I'm very consistent in that as well, Jim.
Yes.
We're not the Patriots.
Well, I knew Keith would pick the Patriots to at least be a wild card team. That I knew that was happening. Surprised me with some
Buffalo's out.
Yeah, Buffalo.
I have Buffalo, Miami out. I have Miami finishing last in that division, actually.
Wow. Okay. Your championship team from the NFC, Keith.
Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks.
Now he's just lost his mind.
It's not a crazy pick. It's really Seattle's going to surprise people, continue an upward trajectory. They drafted phenomenally the last couple of years.
Drinking Kool-Aid.
And again, I'll put one qualification on this. If Geno is not Geno like we saw last year, obviously this pick is going down badly.
Well, but they got Drew Lock. Drew Lock is Geno Smith slumps. Wait. Drew Lock is the guy who they want to take over for him in Seattle because Drew Lock was the backup last year, and he could have gone elsewhere, Drew Lock. And they talked him into staying.
Not a ringing endorsement for me. If Geno's not Geno, last year's team's in trouble. But if Geno is that good, their wideouts are as good as any in the league.
They are.
It's going to be the rookie receiver.
We're going to have to. That's what Rick is right. We're going to have to check your coffee. We're going to have to give you a drug test after the show.
It was a late night last night watching college football outside. I might have overindulged.
All right, so you have the Jets in the Super Bowl just like Byron did, playing the Seattle Seahawks. Who wins?
Seahawks win. Pete Carroll, second Hall of Fame coach. He's going to be with his.
Then you tell me this, Keith. 1 year ago, Jeffcoat put Pete Carroll out to pasture. He's too old. The game passed him by. Jeffcoat was saying more or less. He put him out to pasture a year ago.
Well, look at he's the oldest coach in NFL, I believe, isn't he? Pete Carroll. I'm pretty sure he's the oldest guy. He's like 72 or 3, and
him and Belichick are. I think they're the same age.
Yeah, I think he's a bit older than Belichick, though.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it. Pete Carroll's
not at all.
sideline like he's 45 years old.
Yeah, he's a ringing endorsement for chewing gum too. That guy. So that's Keith's picks. Keith has the division winners being Kansas City, the Jets, the Steelers, and the Jags. And his wild cards in the AFC: Pats, Cincinnati, the Chargers, the Jets going to championship. In the NFC, he's not going to go with the norm with the Philadelphia going all the way. They're winning the division. He's got Chicago, Tampa Bay, and Seattle. Wild card: the Giants, the 49ers, and Minnesota. And Seattle Seahawks, not only the champions, but winning the Super Bowl. Very interesting.
We're not keeping track of these things, are we?
Oh, yes, we are. We're going to post you up there proud, Keith. Make sure that everybody sees your picks.
Change my picks usually after week 11 or so.
Well, yeah, I do it at the end of the year, Keith. So Keith, so let's get to the Patriots, and then we'll get back to college football. They signed Matt Corral. To me, that's Zappy is now in the practice squad. He's no longer second string quarterback. They got Cunningham down there too, as a receiver / quarterback, a weapon anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think about them getting Matt Corral? A lot of people don't. I mean, he got hurt. He was a 3rd round pick. Do you think that he's a legitimate second stringer if something happens to Mac Jones?
I think they're trying to. I mean, they could have gone out and found a veteran clipboard holder, but I'll give Jack a chance to say the guy's name that he wants to say.
Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, I think they're maybe looking for lightning in a bottle. Corral hasn't played well since he came into the league. Another guy who's a really good college quarterback hasn't been able to transfer to the NFL, which isn't abnormal.
Keith, Corral has been injured. It's not that he hasn't played well. He was never really given an opportunity.
He's not going to be. Maybe he'll be a decent backup, and that's it. But if you have to play Matt Corral for any period of time, you're probably going to be in trouble. People like to look at this, and I've read a couple articles where, Bill's out looking for another replacement for Mac Jones. No, this is an endorsement for Mac Jones, what happened in the last week, and an indictment against Bailey Zappi. Bailey Zappi had a horrendous camp, not just in the games. I mean, in camp, he was terrible. And, what you saw last year was just a flash in the pan. The guy they really were worried about losing was Malik Cunningham. And because they love his athleticism, not to be a quarterback necessarily, but they want him to be a wide receiver and be able to use his talents at quarterback when necessary. But I kind of like what they moved. Whatever. Matt Corral, whether Matt Corral will be the backup next week, I have no idea. It could be Bailey Zappi, to be honest with you. He's listed on the depth chart number 2 now, only because they signed the guys to the practice squad. And I don't know, Jim may know, there may be some rules where they can't put them back off that practice squad for X amount of time. I don't know. So I don't think that just because he's the number 2 today, he'll be the number 2, 3 weeks from now.
If they had an injury, they're going to bring either Zappi or probably most likely Zappi out.
Yeah, if Mac Jones, Mac Jones goes out, I wouldn't be surprised that Zappi's a guy that
Zappi would be the guy.
Stuff's going on behind the scenes we don't see at practice, and that's going to determine it. If Corral is looking good in practice, all systems go. If not, then they might go back to Zappi.
Good morning, Alan. And Alan is saying Keith's waiting for Deion's son to come out so they can be the Patriots quarterback.
Oh, Jesus.
That's
good. Man, oh man,
they're not good,
yeah, Alan, relax.
So, Keith, of course, there's some big news in college football I want to get back to you with. Of course, Jack and Jim are talking about, the greatness of Deion Sanders as a coach, and he's coached one game in college football against TCU. It was a pretty good team.
Jackson State. He was at Jackson State before then, so he has
Well,
not just.
Okay, so he's in the big time now. Anyway,
He's
But
saying, yeah. And nobody said he would do anything in the big. You got to give the guy credit. I know you hate.
I'll give him credit, Keith. Maybe you'll agree with me because me and you see a lot of things the same. I think Deion Sanders thinks he's still playing football, right? He's got to come out. He's got to talk a lot of trash instead of just being a coach, saying the team played well. We're building something here, blah blah blah. But no, he's got no receipt. We got the receipts here. You got. To me, that was unprofessional. I don't know if you agree with me or not.
Well, it's Deion. I mean, is it professional in the norm of what we see? Probably not. But that's Deion. That's the way he coaches. That's why he was successful at Jackson. By the way, he didn't play at the FBS 1 level or coach at the FBS 1 level. I get that, but he did a great job. That Jackson State team he took over was really bad, really bad. And he's a good coach.
He got the number one DB and receiver in the country at Jackson State.
Yeah, and I'm not jumping any bandwagons because I think he's a good coach. I think they might win. If he wins 6 games here this year, he's done a great job.
Yeah, he'll be in
I
the
did
bowl
not
game.
think they'd win yesterday. I thought they'd lose yesterday. I thought TCU, they were a 20-point favorite in this game, and I thought they would win. That was my best bet of the week, actually, was TCU. Fortunately, we made up for that last night, but I thought Sonny Dykes, but he never got a chance. I really thought if Sonny Dykes got a chance yesterday, he would put the stomping on Deion. I don't know why. I just had that feeling. And TCU didn't play well either. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of that's what Colorado was doing. I got to give them credit, but their quarterback didn't play well. 2 interceptions in the red zone, 1 right at the goal line.
Chandler Morris, who lost to the guy that last year that was a Heisman Trophy run-up.
Yeah, and a lot of good players gone from the CCU team. Again, I'm kind of mixed emotions. I think Deion will do a good job here. I really do. But, let's see what happens because the Pac-12 is a lot better than people give them credit for, as we just talked about with Utah, Washington yesterday. USC is still going to be good despite that defense. So once they get into league play, it's going to get a little rougher for Deion.
A lot of times you run on adrenaline and you have a great opening game. And then things kind of level out and it becomes a long season.
Yeah, but his next 3 games are winnable games.
Yeah, they got UNLV next week, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
They play Nebraska next week.
Nebraska?
Then they play.
Rick Neuheisel yesterday on the CBS studio show had a great point. When he took over UCLA, they went to Tennessee, I think Tennessee, and had a huge win. Nobody expected. UCLA wasn't any good. And then they went to BYU and got their butts kicked by about 40 the next week. So again, it's one game.
First of all, there's 2 things that he has, or 3 things in his bench. That running back is pretty darn good. Did you see him hit the corner? The receiver, you got a guy that can play 2 ways. That's scary. This guy might be a better DB than he is a receiver. And you got a quarterback that can play. They don't have a very good offensive line.
I did think Deion, one place I'll take exception with him, and yes, his press conference was certainly different, Mac, than any other college football coach. I thought he was a little bit defensive. A guy asked a very simple question he said, now that you're set at the number 1 quarterback, he wanted to talk about the other quarterbacks on the depth chart and their progress. And he took exception to that question, like he was questioning that the kid was only playing because he was his son. And he went into a whole diatribe about that for about 5 minutes yesterday. Deion's got to be a little thicker skinned, maybe, because I don't think this act will play well forever, because
he's using it as fuel. That's what he's doing. He's using it as fuel. Well, they don't think you're good enough. They think because you're my son. But a lot of people have him going high in the draft.
He wouldn't even take a question from the first guy who asked a question. He goes, wait a minute, before you ask a question, I got your article right here in front of me. The guy who written something negative about the team.
That's how pro athletes are, though. They take it personal.
He lectured him for about 5 minutes and then went on to a different guy. So he's a different kind of coach. There's no doubt about it.
But see, a lot of great coaches were a different kind of coach.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Jimmy Johnson was a different kind of coach.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's
Now
no
we're,
question.
now we're comparing Deion Sanders to Jimmy Johnson. Is that where we're going now?
Have swagger.
Yeah,
And
just
there's
an
nothing wrong with that.
just an
Yeah,
attitude.
but Deion Sanders he can back his swagger up because of what he did as a player.
But it
Or
doesn't matter.
because
As a coach.
any player he has on his roster, he can say, I was a better player than you were. And they can't
There we
argue
go.
with that.
There we go.
Jimmy
See, now that's
Johnson
exactly
was a
what I'm talking
player,
about.
but he,
Here goes Jack.
But-
Here goes Jack proving my point. It's all about
So here's
Deion
the thing
Sanders.
you guys don't understand. When I coached at the Cowboys, this was a guy that was a legitimate Hall of Famer, but he'd be in there at 5 o'clock in the morning studying film and understanding how people are going to try to attack him. That's why he's taking the same thing and doing it as a coach.
Yeah.
He understands the game. Don't let him fool you. That's
I
all.
don't think he does not understand the game. I'm just saying. He said it'll wear out, and I agree with you. It's all
He's
to
made
me,
so much money for Colorado. I mean, he's making money for him because everybody's watching the show.
So, no, that's a very good point.
It's like a number one rated show. Everybody's watching it.
This is
Mac, like I said before, if I'm channel scanning and there are about 10 college games on, Colorado, there's a good chance I'm going to turn to the Colorado game because of Deion Sanders.
and that's the first time in about 30 years you can say that because nobody's done that for about 30 years.
Listen, I'm not saying he can't coach. I'm not saying that he's not a good recruiter. I'm not saying that he's not high profile. I'm saying it's one game, Colorado. What are they?
It's
Power
true,
five?
but they play Nebraska. They play Colorado State. After that, they're going to win those games.
They should.
That's 3 games. He
shall
only
see.
needs to win
We shall
3 more to
see.
be bowl eligible.
Keith, before you go, any other thoughts on the college, the first week of the college games? I know we got 2 games coming tonight, Clemson at Duke and LSU at Florida.
Clemson and Duke's tomorrow night. That game, I think, will be closer than you think. It's going to be at Duke. I think Clemson will win the game, but I think Duke will give them a game. They got a really good coach in Mike Elko, and
Yes, he is.
they won 9 games last year. I think they'll win 9 games this year. I don't think this will be one of them, but I think it'll be close. And the best game of the weekend is tonight, Florida State and LSU. I love Florida State tonight.
Well, that's one of the best games.
Yeah.
Winnipeg against Saskatchewan is the.
Well, I didn't look deep at the Canadian Football League yet. I do that usually on Sunday afternoon. So, listen, I will give you one game. I already talked about Wyoming being Texas Tech, who's a lot of people's, dark horse team this year. Ohio State struggled yesterday against not a really good Indiana team. They only won 23-3, which sounds like a lot, but they have some issues at quarterback. They got talent, and Jack's talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. and some of the other guys. They got some issues at quarterback, though, that they got to figure out because they should have beat this team by about 40 yesterday.
Yeah, I brought that up. That was pretty low scoring for an Ohio State team, especially against Indiana or so. I like what Notre Dame did these first 2 games. I don't know if they're going to be.
They played Tennessee State.
That's what I'm saying. I like what they did, but I don't know if they're going to be able to compete with the big boys again, Keith. And that's every year. So.
If they find a way to beat Ohio State on the 23rd, they'll be in the playoff conversation.
Yes,
I'll just say that.
Yes. Okay.
And I talked to her about Baylor losing to Texas State.
That's the game I was trying to get to. I was trying to look for that. I knew there was a big upset I saw last night, and I could not find the damn thing. Baylor.
That is a great story. Do you know the story about G.J. Kinney?
I do not.
His father was a coach here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. His father got in an argument. There was a parent that his son wasn't playing, and he shot his father. His father got shot.
Gosh. Oh, my God.
Over there. The parent shot him, and he recovered. But Kenny was a tremendous player in Mesquite. He was a hell of a college, high school player. And then he coached at various places, and he was at Incarnate Word and did a great job there.
Well, Baylor had a good team last year, if I remember. Their defense was very good. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they were close, they were in the playoff conversation 2 years ago.
Yes,
so
they were.
Yeah.
Their coach done a great job there.
Yeah. So Texas Tech with the upset.
Yes.
That's something I guess.
Wyoming. That's a big thing, but that's a hard place. One of those more difficult places to play.
Alan, one more before you go, Keith. I know
Yep.
you want to get out of here and get to.
Okay. You want me to give you? I thought you had a question.
All right, let's see if they. I did, Keith. But
Well,
again,
the Yankees have been winning lately.
Oh, you know what? Great point. I like 1 minute, but Yankees. I'm glad they brought the kids up. Great, because you can lose. And I said last week, I'm okay if we rebuild as long as we're not boring, right? Friday night I think it was Friday night. Great night.
Jack
Dominguez get a home run in his first at bat. Wells get a base hit in his first at bat. So.
Keith. Jack does this just to tick me off because he knows this is.
You were freezing, Matt. I had to fill in for you.
And that's where Jack turns to. He goes to baseball on the NFL show. All right, so we're gonna bring Robert on. We're gonna say goodbye to Keith. Keith, thanks for the TGI Sports Talk.
Good Jack.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
And Alan was talking about Oklahoma State. What was it? Yeah, it was Oklahoma State.
Yes.
They beat Arkansas. Right.
Beating down Arkansas State. Yes. So that was a lot of big scores there. Coming up now.
Yeah. Hey guys.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing, Robert?
Good.
Robert Butler from Sportscope, folks. Glad to have him on. And what we're going to do with Robert today is we're going to go around and some of the games. I want some stories that are around the games. There are a lot of stories out there in some of these games, players not playing, stuff like that. So I want to go over that with Robert today. Robert, let's start with the NFC East. What kind of stories do you got with Arizona and going up against the Commanders?
Well, Arizona, you got to wonder if the NFL would consider. This is just my opinion. This has not been reported, but you got to wonder if maybe the NFL, with this blatant tank job that they're doing, may adopt the NBA lottery style system. You know, trading away players. They bring in Josh Dobbs. There's some familiarity with the offensive coordinator. They've signed him like a week ago. And the other quarterback is a 5th-round rookie starting quarterback. We don't know if Kyler Murray is going to play this year.
Right.
They're trying to possibly hold him out so they won't have to try to get around some guaranteed money and some cap hits to possibly trade him. So that's the Arizona side. And, of course, Washington side, Sam Howell's had a great camp. Not a good camp, but a great camp. Eric Bieniemy. Looks like that's working out so far. I think Washington is a big favorite. Should be a big favorite coming into that game.
I'd agree with that. We have Philadelphia and New England coming out. Robert, what's the biggest stories out of that game coming up?
Well, I mean, if you look at Philadelphia, New England's got a rookie corner starting, this Anthony Gonzalez, and this Jones on the other side. It looks like he might not play in that game. Philadelphia, you've got a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. They're going on the road. There could be an upset there, but I don't know. New England seems to be pretty banged up to start the season, though.
Yes, yeah, they do. I mean, and what do you think about what happens if I'd be too early? If Mac Jones has a really bad game, are the New England fans going to start off frustrated right off the bat?
Yeah, that's a possibility. You know, that is a possibility. I think they'll play better. They got a new offensive coordinator here. They got an actual offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien. So I expect them to play better. I expect them to play a lot better.
It's the longest of long shots, but they're honoring Tom Brady that night. Can you imagine Mac Jones is awful and this crowd starts going, we want Tom. And Brady has it in the back of his mind. He really does want to come back. Could he be allowed to play for New England, being a minority owner of the Raiders? I know it sounds crazy, but it's not ridiculous.
Jack,
Brady might actually
just sound crazy. It's crazy.
The comeback kid.
He played just last year. He wasn't bad last year. It's not like he's washed up. I know he's old, but still.
Jack, I would say it's highly unlikely that that's going to happen.
Very unlikely, but it's not possible. It's a long shot type thing. Would he be allowed to quarterback for New England, being a minority owner of the Raiders? He might decide, I want to finish my career at New England this year, and Belichick is willing to take him back and actually start him if he's in shape.
I'm going to say there's zero chance of that, Jack. Tom Brady is not going to play football at all. He's happy what he's doing right now.
I would have to.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories about him buying up teams. I see him popping up on TV everywhere, college stuff with Fox, and I doubt if he's even working out. Like, as you know, how much of a prepared type of person he is.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yes.
He's not just going to say, "Okay, I'm going to come back." As Pag says, a lot of times when they have these ceremonies, it works against the other team. I don't know why, but it seems like every game where they put somebody in a ring of honor or something like that, the team ends up losing. I'm not sure if it's part of why it breaks their psyche or something, but it seems that way. You got Dallas at the Giants, a big NFC East clash. Robert, you got any stories about that for us?
Well, obviously Dallas has got a new offensive coordinator. They're going in a new offensive philosophy. Bringing in, obviously, Trey Lance didn't get a chance to come on last week, guys. It's part of my sacrifice of taking the big pay cut at work. But I tell you, I don't know football-wise how much sense that makes. My guess is Jerry Jones is saying, Dak, have your head on straight. Let's not turn the ball over. We change offensive coordinators. We are going defensively heavy. And this guy, if this don't get your attention, nothing will. That's my opinion. That's what Jerry's probably in his mind thinking. Because, I like their backup quarterback. He went 4-1 last year.
And what's your theory on this? People don't realize, and they always knock that. He had a bad year in interceptions. I'm not saying that. But Dak is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah. Trey Lance did not have a lot of success in San Francisco. Trey Lance is a win-win situation. If he is not good, they're going to cut him next year. If he is good, he gives you somebody in the future. That's all it is. People are making too much out of this.
No, Jim.
I'm with you, Jim. I'm just thinking, I don't know why they did it.
He just saw this.
Yeah.
They're going to probably be in a position where they can't get one of those top 5 quarterbacks. This is a guy they probably could develop for the future. That's all it was. And he had a chance. And when did they get that? The 4th round.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, he's not automatically a top 10 quarterback anymore.
He is automatically a top 10.
And even I think Rob might vouch for this.
Who would you take?
Well, the guys
other than Jalen Hurts in the Philadelphia, you wouldn't take Daniel Jones. You wouldn't take
But a number of guys have caught up to Dak Prescott. It's up to him to prove he's still ahead of him. In this case in point, let me ask Rob, of all the opening games, is it most crucial for Dallas to get off to a good start? If Dallas should lose to a division rival, the Giants, game 1, could things get very ugly very quick in Dallas?
Well, you look at all the changes they've made and the expectations for that team. I got high expectations. I had Jim on the program a couple weeks. Yes. I have high expectations for Dallas. I'm not trying to make Jim feel good or anybody. You guys know me. This is the best Dallas team since the 90s, in my opinion, since that defense, breaking it down, looking their first road playoff win, guys, in 30 years. That's a confidence builder. I think Michael Parsons, he's saying championship, guys. I just want to be on TV, and I think that's resonating with this team. Yeah, if they lose that Giant game, I think they'll win it. But if they lose that Giant game, yeah, everybody's going to start talking. It's probably some kind of crazy fumble or something. And, they're Dallas. They're the most popular brand in all sports. Are you trying
to tell me, I know you talked to Jim. I watched part of the show. Are you trying to tell me that this Dallas Cowboy team is as good as the 90 teams?
That's not the best since the teams.
Yeah.
I think it's better than the best
team they've had in 10 years.
Jim says 10 years. I say the best since those teams. I don't say they're better because those teams, they had
great balance.
Yeah.
But this is the best team they've had in quite a while.
Yeah, 30 years and well, 94, 95. If you want to be, if you want to be specific, since the group that Jimmy brought in, I do think it is. I mean, you look at their defense, you look at their ball control, veteran quarterback. I actually like Dak, but Romo made way too many mistakes, guys. And he was calling audibles inside the 5-yard line, Romo, to get his stats up.
Yep.
He admitted it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And Dak wouldn't do that.
Oh, well, yeah, I know. Dak
Romo's an accident waiting to happen.
Romo's
I agree with him 100%.
Oh, I know you do, Jim.
Dak struggled last year. I know what my eyes saw. He struggled last year. He didn't even
some of it was
being an elite
here's the problem,
quarterback.
Jack, what people don't understand. Some of it was as the Gallup was coming off that knee injury.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been the number 2 receiver. Noah Brown and the tight end were awful. They would let passes pop up in the air. And I would say, what did he have? 15 interceptions?
Yeah.
9 of them were those 2 guys. If you look at it, you go back and look at the film.
Jack, here he goes with the excuses. That's any quarterback,
That's
Jim.
not an excuse.
That's any quarterback. That's any quarterback.
Jim needs to show excuse making, Matt.
Dak
we keep
has
a
got.
stat on this show of excuse making, and Jim is number one.
I'm with Jack.
I'm
I
not
want to see
making
this year.
excuses. I'm just telling you.
I want to see this year.
I'm not making an excuse. I'm just telling you this is the best team they've had. And Robert
really good.
said it. This is a really good team. This is.
I think they're talented, Jack. I think they're talented, but it takes more than talent to win football games, and you know that.
You got a head coach that y'all always beat up. He's won 12 games the last 2 years.
The Dallas Cowboys have won 12 games, not Dak Prescott. By the way, it's not that is not a stat.
All right,
all right.
He's won.
Even in the playoffs last year, in the playoffs, Rob mentioned the playoffs. He feasted off a weak Tampa Bay Buccaneer team that was 8-9 during the season. He looked great in that game, and then he goes against a real defense against the Niners, and he looked awful.
Jack, they barely lost that game. Think about it.
Yeah.
As bad as
And
he
Tampa
played.
Because
destroyed him
of
in
him,
week
they
one,
lost
Jack.
the game in large part.
And
He didn't
that's
perform
why,
like an elite quarterback.
and did you hear what Robert said? Tampa destroyed them in week 1.
19-3.
It is not a
It was an awful
sprint.
game.
It's a marathon. I don't worry about first games anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's too long of a season. You have to get better as it progresses.
Robert, let's talk a little bit about Buffalo and the Jets, the first game this year. Jack's poster boy, Aaron Rodgers, up against the Buffalo defense, which is not really one of the greatest, but they do have a great quarterback over there. Any stories over there for the Jets and Buffalo?
Well, Von Miller not going to play in that game. They took a gamble with Von Miller, and he was 33 years old, and they gave him all that money, and now he's not going to play the first 4 games minimum. We know Von Miller won't want to play that game. Here's a story. This is one you may have not heard. Jason Whitlock claims that he has a source. I'm thinking he's talking about a coach inside Buffalo's locker room saying that there's more to Stephon Diggs' beef or issue, in air quotes, with Josh Allen, that Allen, after he's got initial success, has not been putting in the proper work. He hasn't been putting in Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes level of work. He's winging it off of his athleticism. He said that's the team is kind of annoyed with Allen. He's on the cover of Madden, got a huge contract, getting a lot of hype, getting a lot of love. So that's the story with Buffalo side. The Jets side, everything's starting to look a lot better. Dwayne Brown, no longer on the injury report. Micaiah Becton, no longer, as of today, I got to say, I think the Jets should be favored in that game. They're probably not, but I think the Jets probably win that game come Monday night.
It's in Buffalo, right?
No,
I think it's at
MetLife Stadium.
A great point, Robert. It looked to me last year a lot of red zone interceptions by Josh Allen, he just doesn't look like he was good as he was a few years ago. It looks like he's declining a little bit. And Buffalo, me and Jack have talked about this. I think Jim too. I don't know if he agrees with us, but I think Buffalo is flattened out. I think that's it. I think they've shot their shot. And
I picked them to win the Super Bowl last year, and I think their window is closed basically now.
Yeah.
Possibly they need an offensive-minded head coach to call out Allen, and they got to get that running game going. I've been saying that for 3 years.
You mentioned Stephon Diggs. His teammates voted him one of the captains recently when they voted again. So if there are issues with Stephon Diggs where there's been discontent, if you're going to vote a guy one of your captains, obviously he has respect in the locker room.
That goes to show you that maybe that there may be some validity to that issue with Allen. Now, in Allen's defense, yes, they need a running game. They need a consistent running game. They get away from it.
No doubt. I agree with that 100%. So Kansas City at Detroit, some people are picking Detroit to upset Kansas City. A lot of times in the first game, people will do this. What do you think? Do you think any stories around that? I know, the one thing I want to say before you start, Kansas City has had a lot of turnover in the last couple of years, Robert.
Yes.
Do you think Detroit has a shot at upsetting them?
Oh, man, do I. I mean, they're getting 6.5 points coming in. Chris Jones, that is a huge story. Huge. If they bring him back this week, he'll be on the snap count. He's missed the whole camp. Same thing with Nick Bosa or Joey Bosa. Nick with San Francisco. We'll get that later. But only way I see Kansas City winning this game is because of Andy Reid comes up with so many plays over the summer. But I can see a lot of David Montgomery. That's the running back they signed. He's their more power north and south guy. Sprinkle in with rookie Jabbar Gibbs. That would be my game plan. I think Kansas City's hanging on at the very end. There's a good chance Detroit covers that 6.5, and the team knows that in the back of their mind. Tennessee ran all over Kansas City where they didn't have Chris Jones. He is a big, big issue. It's just now making the national media. I've been talking about it for weeks. Chris Jones saying, if I don't get nothing done, there's a report he might not come back to week 7 or week 8.
There's something that I saw which I didn't like. Travis Kelce publicly appealed to Jones to come back. And if I'm Jones, I'm ticked off. I'm saying, why don't you appeal to the ownership to bring him back to sign him? Okay, I'm ticked off if I'm a player because he's putting the burden on Jones, and he really shouldn't be doing that.
That is true. And if I'm Kansas City, he's only 29. I would try to work out like a 2-year deal, man. He's a big deal for Kansas City.
But why, if you signed him and made him one of the higher paid defensive linemen in the league at the time, why keep renegotiating with these guys? They have a contract. They got paid well at the time. I can understand they got vastly underpaid at the time. But if they're still getting paid well.
Jack, is the landscape changes as the season. And I understand what he's saying. I'm closer to the end, to the beginning. And he had, 14.5 sacks last year, Robert?
Yeah, and as a tackle.
As a defensive tackle. This guy is unique. And
but the team is going to lose out on the deal. They extend him, give him big money, and if he's closer to the end and he's underperforming, Rob just mentioned Von Miller. Look at all the money Buffalo put out there, and maybe they'll.
Regardless, that's a regardless. So you always talk about that is a part of it. I mean, I don't have any sympathy for Kansas City's management. I don't, because you only have a short lifespan in the NFL.
They're resting on their laurels for their success. Chris Jones is huge. He's 4 years younger than Von Miller was last year. He's only 29. Von Miller was 33 last year.
Yeah.
See, the problem, and I got to go with Jack here a little. The problem with that is that the players get these contracts and don't perform up to their levels. You just mentioned Von Miller, one of the better defensive linemen on the Rams. Darnold. I mean, I'm trying to get
Aaron Donald after they
signed. This guy is outperformed that contract. He's different.
So and you're trying to tell me the Rams, great defensive lineman, didn't when he got his contract? I mean, to me, Jim. I mean, I got to go with Jack here a little bit. If they see if he can make that money somewhere else, I bet he doesn't.
He would love to, but they ain't gonna get rid of him. That's the problem.
Well, Aaron Donald got paid. He got paid the big money.
He's
And
the
he ended
highest
up-
paid
and he-
defensive player.
and what happened?
I'm going to tell you this.
And he was hurt a lot last year, if you remember.
And the mindset of the players are like this. Like in the case of an Aaron Donald, I venture to guess the Rams are going nowhere this year. Chances are he's not going to play hurt well into the season, unlike if they were Super Bowl contender. Then he would play hurt, perhaps play hurt. You know, so, you know, it's kind of vague.
Chris. I don't, because he was just like Robert said, this guy is unique. I mean, this guy
he's at the position that you want to try to help. Left tackle, defensive tackle. Yeah.
No question.
So Robert, let's hit up
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Cleveland. Joe Burrow was hurt early. Can Deshaun Watson become the quarterback he was before? What kind of story you got there for us?
Yeah. I mean, Joe Burrow supposedly practicing back from that calf injury. What percentage, we'll never know. He may have some kind of cast or something on that calf. He had the calf wrapped up when he strained it a few weeks back early in training camp, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Supposedly he's practicing again. You look at the flip side, Cleveland, Jim Schwartz, he's there to tighten up that run defense. Deshaun Watson, a full off season. I actually like Cleveland in the upset, guys. It's at home. It's in Cleveland. That's going to be one of the best games of the entire weekend. Can't wait to see that game.
Rob, Joe Burrow's contract, it's been a little quiet lately. You'd think it would be more of a buzz. They haven't signed him. Very unusual.
Yeah. I think that was a they kind of jumped the gun with that report that maybe Burrow would hold out until he gets an extension. Burrow denies that. Burrow's actually been back practicing this week. He knows he's got a lot of power, and he wants to get his players around him paid. He's not going to take a super cheap hometown discount, but I think there's a slight hometown discount.
Yeah, because he does want Chase and T. Higgins.
Yeah, which I think's crazy. Just take one of them, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
So
get that defensive line and O-line squared away.
that's a good point. There's another. I think this is going to be a real good game too. You got the 49ers going against the Steelers. Should be a very physical game. You got the kid Pickens is
Purdy.
The ball.
Oh,
He's
Pickens,
good. Yeah, and we'll find out with how good Purdy is after that injury last year. So I think this could be a really interesting game, Robert.
Yeah, 49ers on the road now. Nick Bosa, I expect them to sign him at the last hour. Probably be on the snap count as well. Missed all camp, excuse me. Only issue I have with Steelers is Broderick Jones did not beat out Dan Morgan for that left tackle starting spot. That was their biggest issue the last few years, their offensive line. That could hurt the Steelers, but with the Nick Bosa on a snap count, you got a healthy TJ Watt. That's going to be a good physical game. And like you said, Mac, will Brock Purdy be gun-shy? That was a pretty harsh injury he got in the NFC Championship game. Supposedly he's back. He looked good in the preseason. Only had one incompletion. They got rid of Trey Lance. They're sold on him, but I could see Steelers getting week 1 upset, though.
That is a statement game. Brock Purdy, if he performs well against that Steeler defense, he's shown he's perhaps for real. I think it was a bit of an aberration last year. He was a wonderful game manager for the 49ers, but you're counting on Brock Purdy to be a franchise quarterback. I think that's kind of jumping the gun a bit on the 49er part.
Oh, if he's not, I think management may look to do away with Kyle Shanahan. But I don't think so.
Sam Darnold will be starting for the Niners before the year's out. That's a prediction.
You think Darnold will be signing? Okay.
They'll be starting before the year's
only if
out.
Purdy gets hurt. They're not going to play Darnold above Purdy. Only if he gets hurt. That's not happening. What do you think about Miami at the Chargers? A lot of talent on both teams.
Yeah. Early on, I would have said Miami easy in that game, but Jalen Ramsey, he gets hurt in training camp. But, this Quentin Johnson, this receiver rookie receiver for this Charger team, they might have the deepest receiver room in the NFL. Josh Palmer, Oh God, I forgot the other two. That Keenan Allen, everybody. Plus, you know something, their left tackle was out most of the year last year.
Yes.
Rashawn Slater and the Chargers played well. They got Keelan Moore this year. Hopefully, they don't get too pass happy because they got a good running game there. But man, I think the Chargers win this game. Miami's going in there somewhat limping, but you know they do got Vic Fangio now as a defensive coordinator. That's going to be a great game. Can't wait to see that game. But Chargers seem to have that edge coming in.
Well, didn't Miami pick up the Dallas cornerback with Joseph? Is that right?
Did they get Kelvin Joseph? I had to go back and look at that.
He's a slot. He's a slot corner.
Okay. I was thinking, they got Byron Jones.
They traded corner to corner. One's an outside corner, and the other and Joseph was a slot corner.
And he's a little bit younger than Ramsey too. So I mean, I think that might be an upgrade, within a year.
Well, no, they're going to use Eli Apple because Joseph covers the slot receivers, the inside receivers. So they have to use Eli Apple on the perimeter.
On the outside?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
last game I want to go over with you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
They had some guy named Koa, Kohou. I've never heard of him, but Miami knows what they're doing. They got a good eye for talent.
Yeah,
I think so. So we got the black and blue division of the NFC, the Northern Division there. You got Green Bay against Chicago, right? A lot of people are saying, well, Green Bay's, their quarterback Love looks good and everything preseason. I think that the Bears may have the most talented quarterback in that division with their quarterback there right now. So what do you expect to happen here?
Yeah, something, Jordan Love really has. If you're Green Bay, if you're management, if you're coaching staff, you want everybody to see Green Bay as they seen them. Just another team in the league, way under the radar. But, I've been looking into his work and his stats. He actually has had a really good camp, Jordan Love. You know what? I got a feeling that they're going to upset Chicago. Chicago had the big, flashy, splashy offseason. They got the much stronger, bigger, faster quarterback in Justin Fields. But, Green Bay's got quietly their defense was getting better and better as the season went along. A really good linebacker. What's his name? Quay Walker, I think, out of Georgia. Second-year guy. Got some trouble last year. He pushed a trainer out of the way. Got to find I think he'll have his head about him. Jar Alexander, good defense, good running game. Second-year Christian Watson. I actually think Green Bay comes up with the upset, and people's going to start questioning Justin Fields.
I am missing something here. Keith Engel is picking the Bears to win the division, and you're saying it's an upset if someone beats the Bears? I don't think the Bears are much. They've been terrible the last couple of years.
In the game. No, I like Detroit to win the division. What's Keith Engel thinking?
No, but I don't consider it an upset if the Packers beat the Bears. Packers, even with a bad year last year, they were 8-9. And that was an off-season a bit.
The Bears are getting all the hype. They made a lot of big moves in the offseason. They're favored in the game, and they're home. That's a big deal.
I think the Bears win that game. That's just me.
Yeah.
So, Robert, you got
they
anything
should
else?
Win the game.
I think they will. You got any? We got like a minute, Robert. You got a quick story for us that you got going on?
Let's see. It seems like I got them all covered. Other than I think this Travis Hunter and Colorado story. If this guy, I don't know if he can play 100 snaps like this at cornerback and then turn around and play at wide receiver. But if he does, it's his Heisman Trophy to lose.
All right. Okay. Well, there you go. So
Deion bringing the hype.
Oh my God.
They don't like Deion, so.
Hey, he delivered yesterday, man. It's a good game.
Yeah, he did. He did deliver yesterday. We'll see what happens the rest of the season. Robert Butler from SportsScope with a K. He's everywhere, folks. Check out his Facebook page. And as I said, he's almost on every platform. Robert, thanks for stopping in. Have a great day, buddy.
Have a good show, guys.
Take care, Rob.
So there you go. Robert Butler from SportsScope giving us little stories on each game of some of the big games anyway. So let's get to we don't have to get to our picks right away unless you want to do that and do the NFL news afterwards. I know Jack's going to take about an hour or so. So
I'm giving my game picks next Sunday before the
I'm not
opening
talking about
game.
the game picks. I'm not talking about the game picks, Jack. I'm talking about the division picks and stuff like that. Let's get that going, and that way we won't run out of time at the end. So let's go with Jack. Jack, in the AFC, who's your division winners? And if you want to do it different, go ahead.
Well, I'll do it a little different quickly. In the AFC East, I like the Jets to win the division, coming around 11-6, followed by the Dolphins in New England and Buffalo. I think they're going to be closely packed together in the AFC East. I think it's a very competitive division, and I'm picking the Bills for last place. How do you like that? The AFC West, I like the Chiefs, followed by the Chargers, and then Denver, and then the Las Vegas Raiders. Denver and the Raiders aren't going to be a factor. The Chargers have a lot of talents. You never know. Maybe they rise up and win the division, give the Chiefs a real challenge. But I think the Chiefs prevail. In the AFC North, I like the Bengals there. I think they have a really, really good team. I think the Steelers are going to follow, then the Ravens fairly closely behind, and then Cleveland in last place. But Cleveland's intriguing because there's talent there. Will Deshaun Watson come back and be his old self? If he is, it'll be interesting. In the AFC South, I think Jacksonville stands out there. They should win the division. Tennessee's long in the tooth. I think they'll come in second, followed by Houston and Indianapolis, who won't be a threat at all. The wild card teams in the AFC, one good team's going to be left out, but I like the Chargers, I like the Steelers, I like the Ravens. I think Miami is going to be the odd team out when all is said and done, but they're going to have a halfway decent year. They're going to be about 10-7. So I think 10-7 might not necessarily be good enough to get a team into the playoffs in the AFC.
Okay. All right. So out of the AFC teams, who do you think is going to be at the AFC Championship team representative?
You know, I hate to say it. I think that even though the Jets, I feel, are going to win the division and perhaps win a playoff game, when all is said and done, I really like the Cincinnati Bengal team. And I go back to last year, starting their team last year. And when the season ended, I thought to myself, Cincinnati's the team to beat next year. And I still feel that way. They have a pretty solid, defense. Their offensive line isn't a disaster the way it was before. Joe Burrow has his weapons. If Joe Burrow's hurt, forget about it. They don't have a prayer. But I think the Jets ultimately run into the Bengals in the playoffs, and the Bengals win, and the Bengals go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC.
So even with the Jets having a better defense than the Cincinnati Bengals, which I think is true, you still think that the Jets would lose to Cincinnati?
The Jets, in all due respect to Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets do have a good running game, but so do the Bengals with Mixon there. I just think there's more firepower in that Cincinnati team, just a little more firepower. And I think, home field advantage might be important in that spot when, they ultimately play. And you get the feeling that the Bengals would come out with home field advantage, meaning the Jets would have to win in Cincinnati. And as great as Aaron Rodgers is, how many Super Bowls has he been to? I can't say, well, Aaron Rodgers is going to will them into the Super Bowl. I think the Jets 11-6 or so. I think that's a really good year and haven't winning a playoff game. But ultimately, I just think Cincinnati's the team to beat there.
Yeah, Rodgers is 11-10 in postseason, which at least you got there, right? So that's in 21 games. So Jack has the AFC division winners: the Jets, the Chiefs, Cincinnati, and the Jags. Wild cards: the Chargers, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. And in the AFC, Cincinnati going to the championship game. I imagine that's the Super Bowl. He'll be winning the Super Bowl, going to Super Bowl. So let's get the NFC.
The Bengals over the Chiefs in the AFC championship game.
Okay. Gotcha. So what do you got?
Third year in a row, I'll be playing in the championship game if that's the case. So we're used to it by now.
That's true. So NFC, Jack, what do you got?
Yeah, in the AFC, I mean, how can you go against the Bengals in the AFC? I mean, the Eagles in the NFC East. I think it'll be followed by the Cowboys, the Giants, the Commanders. But I think the Cowboys, good team, they'll go from 12-5 down to 10-7, something like that. The Giants will come in at about 9-8. In the NFC North, I like the Lions solidly there. They're the class of the NFC North. They sold out their stadium season tickets for the first time in ages. Vikings are going to take a dip, but they should be, runner up. Then the Packers, and I don't see much from the Bears, even though it seems everyone else does. And then in the NFC West, I like Seattle also to beat out the 49ers. 49ers having problems with their kicking game. Purdy's a question mark. Bosa holding out. The Rams and Arizona distant third and fourth. Will Arizona even win a game this year? That's how bad they are. They're one of the worst teams in modern times. NFC South, very interesting. There's a lot of mediocrity. I think the Panthers are going to win the division. I think the Panthers will peak late in the season and win a few late season games to pull out the division with a losing record, something like 8-9. Falcons and them will be neck and neck at about 8-9 each. Saints won't too long in the tooth. They'll be about 5-12, and the Buccaneers in last place. And I see the NFC championship, the wild card teams. I'm sorry, Cowboys, right. 49ers, and Giants. Giants at 9-8 are going to make the playoffs. How do you like that? At 9-8, they'll be a playoff team. And when all is said and done, I think in the NFC championship game, the Eagles, have home field advantage. They beat the Seattle Seahawks because the Seahawks aren't going to have an exceptional quarterback in a spot like that. And you're not going to go into Philadelphia in an NFC championship game and win with a game manager like Geno Smith or Drew Lock, whoever's quarterbacking at that time.
Okay, and you got Cincinnati versus Philly. Who's your Super Bowl winner, Jack?
I like the Cincinnati Bengals. Sorry for Pags. 2 years in a row. It's going to be another tight, close game. Philadelphia is going to have their heart broken. Joe Burrow is going to be the toast of the NFL, Super Bowl MVP. The talk at the end of the season is going to be who's the best quarterback in football, Burrow or Mahomes, and Burrow is going to have a lot of support by the end of the year.
So you're not worried about that calf injury to Burrows at all this year?
I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I got to trust he'll be ready to go as the season goes along. You got to trust that they're thinking long term with him and seeing what they could do in the meantime. Who did they have? Jake Browning starting there for Cincinnati, I think. They just got Cincinnati can tread water. They could go something like 2-2 the first 4 games, and there's no panic at all.
Okay, I think it's a tough division. I'd be panicking if I was, playing around 500 then. So you got Cincinnati winning the Super Bowl. You got the AFC winning the Super Bowl again. So we'll see what happens there. So let's get Mr. Jeffcoat in here and let's hear. Do you want to just go to the Super Bowl winner, Jim, and get it over with?
Who are the Cowboys playing in the Super Bowl, Jim?
Cowboys are playing. I'm gonna start with the AFC.
AFC. All right.
I think that the Jets are really good, but I'm going with Miami to win the division. And I just
wait, Tom. I just want to cut in 1 second. I'm sorry, and I won't interrupt anymore. Last week you said look for Miami to have a big fall, a big dip, and 1 week later you're picking them to win the division.
Yeah, I just think their offensive talent is exceptional. I really.
He's throwing you off the scent. Jim is playing possum with you right now. He just did that.
And I think you're right. Buffalo's got some issues, so I'm going to pick the Jets to be second in that division, and then Buffalo third and New England last. And that's not saying anything against. I just think that Miami's going to win the division. I think they went in the right direction. In the North, that is a different one to do. The North is difficult, and the Ravens are. People are sleeping on them. They still are a very talented team. And Lamar Jackson's happy. He's healthy. He's got a new offensive coordinator. So I'm going to pick the Ravens to win that division and that's as shocking as it is. Cincinnati started off slow last year, and I think they're going to start off slow this year, if you remember. Pittsburgh and Cleveland will be fighting for that third and fourth position. So
Okay.
that's AFC South.
Do you think, before you go, do you think Pittsburgh is going to go above 500?
Yes. Yeah.
It's interesting.
So everyone, the Philly sports guy joins us. Pags, he'll be giving his picks after Jim is done here. And I'm glad Pags came in because, it'll be interesting when we get to the NFC East. So, all right, so we got Baltimore right now in the north of the AFC. In the South, Jim.
Yes. AFC South would be Jacksonville. I think Tennessee will be next, and the Texans and Indianapolis Colts will be fighting for a high draft pick. So
Okay.
They'll get better, but I just think Jacksonville, he's starting to make a turn. And they're coached well. The Jacksonville has gotten better, got a lot of talent too, more than people give them credit for.
Okay, so over in the West, you got Kansas City and Chargers. I imagine
This is a difficult one, more difficult than people think, because people are mentioning it, but Kansas City's got some issues right now, and they do have Mahomes. They do, but the Chargers have some talent on defense and offense. And I'm going to pick the Chargers to upset and win that division. And that's shocking, but I think Kansas City's got too many things internal, and they still have a lot of talent, and they still have Mahomes. But I think without Chris Jones made a bigger impact than people give that kid credit for. And I just think he's going. That's an issue. You don't want to go in the season having that kind of issue. And I've seen it happen before, and that affects the whole team. And I don't think he'll be around for a couple of games.
Who's your wild card pick
exact.
over there?
My wild card teams are Kansas City and Cincinnati.
And
There are 3 wild cards. Who's the third?
I
Jets?
think Jets will be a wild card team.
New York Jets. And who is the person that's the team from the AFC that will be in the championship game, Jim?
Woo! This is a difficult one. I still think Miami's going to be in there. I think Miami's going to slip in there. I think they're going to slip in the Super Bowl because they do have some. I mean, Tyreek Hill makes a difference, Waddle, and some of the other guys they have. And they do have a solid – the people that are better on defense than people ever gave them credit for.
Jim, Tyreek Hill left the Chiefs, and the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl the year he left.
Yeah.
Just to let you know. So.
Yeah, it's true, yeah. I just
So who do
think
you got? Let's get it on with the NFC. Jim, who do you got for your division winners there?
Okay, here's Philadelphia's got the most talent. They might be the most talented team in the NFL right now. But the problem is, it is hard to go back to Super Bowls, and it's hard because every game they play, they are the team people want. It's every game's a Super Bowl, and every team's going to play them tougher, and they cannot. And it's hard. And I've been through this. Injuries. I think that's not there's talent that's going to get Philadelphia this year. I think injuries are going to get them because they have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL.
Jim, but that could happen to any team.
And that could. And the same thing I was going to say. I think Dallas has the same issue.
can I ask Jim, because obviously you did go back-to-back Super Bowls. What were some of the things going into year 2 when you just won the Super Bowl that Jimmy Johnson, I'm going to assume that it had to come from the top, where Jimmy Johnson started to implement in the mindset to make you guys want to and keep you motivated to go back?
Well, here was the thing. He had won national champions in college, excuse me. And what he did was interesting. He threw out that we won the Super Bowl. We started from scratch. We started like we were still fighting to win a Super Bowl. And that's how he looked at it. Prime example is the first year we won the Super Bowl, he would call our practice and we go to this spring and go swimming some days. The next year, he put the buses out there like we were going and said, no, we haven't practiced well enough. He said, we got to be better than we were last year to be the best. And that's how he did it. He put more pressure on us that second year because he told us all, this is going to be more difficult because you have a target on your back. He said, you're every team's Super Bowl. And that's how he looked at it. And that's the hardest thing. That's why teams don't win back-to-back very often.
All right. So Pags, what he's saying is put buses out there, but don't go to swimming holes. So, Jim, who else you got in the NFC as division winners?
I think NFC East is Dallas is going to win it. But I'll tell you the team that scares me more, and people are going to be shocked, is Washington. When you look at their schedule is not very difficult. They might have the easiest schedule in the NFL. And that's the thing. They scare me. I think Dallas and Philadelphia are both better teams, but Washington's schedule is set up for them to be better than people expect because they don't have a lot of difficult games, and the difficult games are at home. I mean, you play Arizona? Come on, be serious. They should run Arizona out of the stadium. And I just think that's set up for them to be successful. I don't think they're the most talented team, but I think sometimes those schedules help you. And I think the Giants.
Jim, you're pulling a jack on me. You're pulling a jack on me. You're pulling a jack on me. Who's your division winners, Jim?
I have Dallas winning it.
I have Dallas winning. Okay, Dallas. I got that. Okay. Who else?
And,
Mr. Jones, that's $500 check, please.
Yes. I think Philadelphia will be second, but I think Washington will be third. And I'm not
the Giants for last place, Jim is saying, Mac. Giants for last place.
If he's picking Dallas, I'm not listening to him anyway. So who's your other division winners, Jim?
My division winners are in the North. I have Detroit winning the division.
Okay. All right.
I have Green Bay, Minnesota, and Chicago.
Okay.
In the South, I have New Orleans is intriguing, but I'm going to go with Atlanta. I think that's going to be the upset. I think Atlanta's gotten better, and they're going in the right direction. They got a running game. They got some receivers. I think they're going to be good. Okay? And then in the West, I think Jack is right. Seattle's got a chance because San Francisco's got a lot of issues with losing Bosa. The quarterback, we don't know what the quarterback's going to do.
Bosa's not lost yet, right? He's just holding out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But the kicking game, they don't have a kicking game now. All their kickers are injured. And I think Seattle they do have some really good receivers. So I wouldn't be shocked if Seattle wins that division.
Who's your wild cards, Jim?
My wild cards are Philly, and I would say San Francisco, and I got one more, and I think that's going to be it could be Washington. It wouldn't shock me. Okay. I think the East is better. I think the East is a better than they were.
Who's going to be your championship team from the NFC?
I think Dallas and Miami will be playing in the Super Bowl.
That's another $500, Mr. Jones.
That's right.
Dallas.
But the difference between Dallas and Philly, Dallas will win it.
Okay. So Dallas is going to win the Super Bowl.
Until Dak Prescott wins the games that really, really matters, I still have to go against him.
He beat Philly, and
but it's not in games that really, really matter.
Well,
okay.
Listen, he's lost to Philly one time.
Yeah.
Correct. That was that 17-9 game that was for the division.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying.
You said it one time.
So here we go. So I knew that's why I wanted to cut right to the Super Bowl. I know Jim had him to win the Super Bowl. Pags, who do you got for division winners there, Pags, in the NFC or AFC?
In the NFC, in the East, I have the Eagles. I just don't think that Dallas is. We already know how I feel about Dallas. I think that the implosion is coming. And it's going to be
the only team that imploded was Philadelphia when they won the Super Bowl. They imploded the next year.
They made it to the playoffs.
Oh,
and in fact, we would have gone back if Alshon Jeffrey caught the ball.
Would have, did.
Yeah, hey, listen, we didn't though. We didn't. So it is what it is. But we did make it back to the playoffs, if I remember correctly. So, and we did go further than Dallas did. Just so
We're
that you
still
know.
12-5 the last 2 years. Y'all say this coach is not very good, but they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
12-5.
Hey, listen. When you have that type of talent, you should go 12-5. The problem
Oh,
is
now we
that
have
I think
talent.
that you guys do have talent. Hey, I gave CeeDee Lamb a lot of credit. I thought at the beginning of the season he was not a star, he was not a number one. By the end of the season, he had worked into that role. So I gave him credit for that. You know, you took a big loss by losing Amari Cooper. You know what I mean? And still you were able to kind of get to that point and get 12-5. That being said, when it came down to it against the 49ers, you couldn't score any points.
And that is true.
So, and that's,
and that's
I
a
would
little
have
bit of
loved,
reason
I would have
Philip Morris not
absolutely
there.
loved the conference championship to be Dallas and Eagles. I was
in
praying
Dallas.
for
It's
it.
gonna be in
We were
Dallas.
praying for it. We were both
So-
praying for it.
Yeah.
Were we not?
Yeah.
So,
Pags, your other division winners, who you got?
so I have Detroit in number 2 in the North. In the South, I'm going to go with the surprise here and say Tampa.
Okay.
I think that Baker Mayfield has a little bit of a resurgence and gets in there. They could get in there with a 7-10 record. So I'm not saying that they're going to be great, but I'm just thinking that I think that the rest of that division is still pretty bad. And then the West, you know, it's like I don't think Seattle's strong enough. I still think that the 49ers defense is good enough. Uh, you know, Arizona is by the wayside, and the Rams, I think the Rams have just chalked it up to they are like they're going to have to fire their coach. So that really puts it between the 49ers and Seattle. And, you know, I guess I could go on board with this whole Seattle thing. I just don't think they're as good as everybody thinks they are. I think that they had a weirdo year last year, and they made the playoffs by 1 point against Detroit. So I'm going to say that just because of that, that they could make it. Yeah, they could wind up winning that division.
Okay, so we got for wild cards in NFC, Pags.
All right, in the NFC, I have Chicago in a wild card. I have the Giants in a wild card, and I have. I mean, for lack of just something better, I think the 49ers. They're going to sneak in.
You got the 49ers as a division winner, Pags.
No, I have the
So
I have the Seahawks as the.
Okay.
I have
All right,
Seattle as the
Seattle.
division winner.
Okay, and San Fran sneaking in, so Dallas doesn't make the playoffs this year. Who do you got in the AFC? Who's your AFC division winners, Pags?
The AFC division winner, I think, on a surprise, is going to be Buffalo. I think Buffalo wins it in the East. I think Cincinnati wins it in the second half of the season, and they wind up getting over the Ravens on top of that. I think that in the South, it's Jacksonville.
Okay.
And the West, I still have Kansas City. Until they can beat them, I just think that the mystique of Kansas City wins 2 games this year, and those 2 games are going to mean something.
So your wild card teams over there, Pags? What do you got for the wild cards in the AFC?
So for the wild card, I do have San Diego. I have the Jets and Miami.
Okay. Miami. And I would imagine for the championship game, the championship would be, who do you got Philadelphia playing in the championship for the NFC, Pags?
I got them going up against Chicago in the NFC Championship.
Wow.
I think
Very high
Chicago
in
is a surprise. And then on the West, in the AFC, I have the Chiefs versus. I can't bet against Joe Burrow. I think it's going to be a rematch of the conference championship last year. Yeah, I just have a hard time betting against Burrow.
All right. You aren't bothered by his injury either, that calf strain.
I mean, a little. You know, obviously, I don't live in Cincinnati, so I don't follow as much as I should over there. That being said, I think that if it's nagging, you know, if it's one of those things that just doesn't go away by week 6, then there's going to be more issue.
Okay, so I imagine you have Philly beating Chicago going to the Super Bowl. Who do you got winning between KC and Cincinnati, Bags?
Kansas City.
So another Kansas City, Philadelphia Super Bowl. Who's your winner, Pags?
We finished the job this year.
All right. So Pags has Philly going all the way against Kansas City for a repeat of last year this time.
And
winning.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. There's going to be a three-peat for both teams. It's going to be Kansas City and the Eagles in 2025.
I don't know about that, but we'll see. All right, that's it. Hey, listen, these picks have been very interesting so far. James taking, of course, James Jeffcoat. That's his real name, but we call him Big Jim. Right?
I just want to say one thing quickly. Not that the Chicago Bears, what is everyone talking about? This is ludicrous. A good season for the Bears would be if they go 7-10. That would be a really good season for them. The Bears are going to only win 4 or 5 games this year. They're not good. I mean, I don't get this.
Well, Jack, I don't know that you're a great evaluator of talent on NFL, but maybe you're right. We'll see. You know, I mean, you're saying the Bears are no good. I think the Bears will be fine this year. So here comes the real picks, folks. No homer here. I'm not going to pick my team to win the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen. But let's start off with the AFC. I like the Chargers winning the division this year. Kansas City has way too much turnover. Chris Jones might be out till the 7th game. Who knows? They've lost a lot of weapons. I mean, Patrick Mahomes did an outstanding job last year. I don't think he can repeat it this year. They can do their ring around the rosy all they want. It's not going to work this year. So I think the Chargers finally win the division. Believe it or not, I like the Pittsburgh Steelers winning the division in the Central. I think they're a better overall team.
I don't believe it.
Yes. I pick Pittsburgh. And you know, I think Cincinnati has problems right now, a quarterback. We'll see what happens there. The Ravens, Jackson gets hurt all the time. I don't believe in the Ravens as much as a lot of people do. And Cleveland, until Deshaun Watson shows me something, I can't pick Cleveland. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I think they got the best overall team there. I also like Tennessee. You know, a lot of people like Jacksonville. It's going to be a tight race between the two. I'll give the nod to the experience, but that's going to be a close race over there. I like Miami. I'm with Jim. I think Miami has more talent than any team in the AFC right now, including the Jets. I think they got more. The receivers, 2 great receivers. Tua, everybody said, well, if Tua gets hurt, well, if Rodgers gets hurt. Well, I mean, you know, we could do that all day. I like Miami over there to win the division. The wild cards, I like Kansas City. I think Cincinnati is a little bit better than the Ravens, and I like the Jets getting in a wild card too. So those would be the 3 teams that I think get in the wild card. Cincinnati may not, depend on Joe Burrows. That's the biggest thing I got anyway. And the NFC, guys, I got Philadelphia winning division. Sorry, Jim. The Eagles are just too deep. Their second string is almost as good as their first string. You know, the Giants aren't that deep. The Cowboys aren't that deep to me. They just got unbelievable depth on that team. Their rookies are unbelievable. Their drafts are great. The trades they make great. They're ahead of everybody when it comes to getting talent on that team, and they just can keep coming at you. It's going to be hard to beat them this year. I like the Saints. Everybody says they're old in the tooth. I don't like Tampa Bay. I don't like Baker Mayfield. I think Atlanta's okay. I think Carolina. I don't like Bryce Young. I think Carolina may end up in last place this year. So I like the Saints winning that. Jack, I like the Bears to win that. I like the Bears to win the North. I mean, they have the best quarterback to me over there right now. They got the most electrifying quarterback over there right now. Jordan Love. Detroit's got a strong team. I just like Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields, they put enough around him, and I think those teams are going to be bunched together. You know, the team that wins is going to be 9-8 or 8 and 9 or whatever. I think that division is going to be smashed together. I like the Bears there. I like San Francisco. Geno Smith, he's not even a Brock Purdy to me. I don't think Geno Smith's going to do it. He hasn't done it anywhere else. I don't see why he's going to put Seattle as division winner. I do think they'll get in as a wild card. I got the Giants, Dallas, and Seattle as wild cards. I think those are the best second-tier teams out there. Like I said, I think the North is going to be so smushed that they're not going to be able to break maybe 500. I got the championship game, Philadelphia against San Francisco again. With a healthy, I think it'll be a lot tougher. I got the Chargers, believe it or not, playing Miami for the championship. I think the Chargers, this is their year, guys. I think they're going to the Super Bowl. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl with all the talent they got. They got one of the most talented team in both conferences there, offensively and defensively, and a young quarterback that's going into his fourth year or fifth year now. He should be ready to do it. So Chargers, Eagles, and the Eagles win. And that's my picks. I think the Eagles get the Super Bowl this year, but I think they go up against the Chargers in the Super Bowl. So, Jack,
you really have faith in the Chargers, for all the Charger talent, and I know they have some impact players on that team. And I think Justin Herbert is the real thing, top 3 NFL quarterback before the year's out. They're dysfunctional. If you lose a 4-touchdown lead in the playoffs to a novice Jacksonville Jaguar team, which Trevor Lawrence had thrown a few interceptions in the first half, you lack character. You
also got a Super Bowl winning coach too, head coach in Jacksonville.
Brandon Staley?
No, and you're talking about there, but what I'm saying in Jacksonville beat them, but they did have Peterson.
Doug Peterson, but Jacksonville was basically a novice team there, last year. And the Chargers, have they done anything to really get better this year? I mean, the impact players were the same. Khalil Mack, Bosa, Herbert, etc.
Yeah, I think again, as any team, that the injuries catch up with you by the end of the year. I think the Chargers are banged up a little bit. I'll tell you what I think about the Chargers as far as that goes, Jack. I think that they got not only talent, I think it's their year. They've been playing a lot together. Kansas City has had a huge turnover. Denver's not going to beat the Chargers. The Raiders aren't going to beat either the Chiefs or Chargers. I think it comes down to Chargers and the Chiefs, and the Chargers just got more togetherness than the Chiefs do.
I think they'll get to the playoffs, the Chargers, but I don't have faith in them come playoff time.
Okay, all right.
I mean, coaching has a lot to do with it playoff time. I mean, it's crucial during the regular season, but especially in the playoffs.
I agree with that. And there have been a lot of teams, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, that have gone to the Super Bowl after losing a crazy playoff game the year before. I remember the Giants lost to the Rams. They weren't supposed to lose to the Rams
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
The Rams came in with a decent chance of winning that game. That was on the long pass at the end of the game. Yeah, but
I think it's I don't hold much of what happened last year as far as the Jags coming back.
We're just making it. We're giving our opinion, but all these teams have the same problem. You lose a key player, they are hard in this NFL to replace. And that's just the reality of it. It is hard to. I mean, we saw what happened with Dallas and Philadelphia. When Dallas lost Dak Prescott and they went to Philadelphia, Cooper Rush was having a great season, but he couldn't do it. Same thing with Philadelphia. When they lost Jalen Hurts against Dallas, that was different. That's just the way it is. In this
much closer game. Much closer game.
It's still a loss. You
still was a loss. You're right.
There is one edge Dallas does have. They do have Cooper Rush, where Philadelphia has Marcus Mariota. That is a little bit of an edge. So if Dak Prescott does go down and Jalen Hurts does go down, you might be right, Jim. I don't see it happening, but that could happen. It could happen. So,
and that's the majority of teams in the NFL.
Oh well,
And
yeah. I mean, of course, that makes sense. That's injuries are a big part of anything. Turnovers, big
Well,
part of anything.
you change the style of play with the Jets. Let's say Aaron Rodgers was out. They're going to rely on their running game, Cook and Brees Hall, and they'll run a lot of short passes. It just the schemes change a lot. Certain teams like the Buffalo Bills, they'll have an experienced backup like a Case Keenum. You can win
no,
with
he's
guys
not
like
there
that
anymore.
short term.
Keenum's with the Texans.
Yeah, he
Oh, he's
left.
with the Texans now. No, who's their primary backup? It's not Matt Barkley still, I hope.
I think it is.
Oh,
I'm not
they
sure.
were in trouble then.
I think Buffalo's in trouble this year. So some NFL news, guys. Someone brought up before Kelsey pleading for Chris Jones to return on air. Some people think that was bad. I don't think you do that either. You don't go out there and start pleading for people to come back. That should be done. All should be
You're
done.
putting pressure on your teammate, making him out to be the bad guy. Like you're putting the burden on Jones when Kelsey did that. He shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I agree with that. So that I agree with.
The guy is a big part of their team. I don't have
It is. But you handle that behind the scenes, right, Jim? I mean, that's you call a guy.
When Randy White held out and Tony Dorsett, guys would say we need him back to be successful. When Emmitt Smith held out, we said we needed him, and it was true.
Yeah, I think it shows that you're not trying to put pressure on him like that in terms of, hey, we want you to get what's yours, but we are a better team with you here than with you
Exactly.
out. And
Exactly.
that's really the message you want to do. That's more like a solidarity message. Yeah. I feel like that. I didn't hear what he said.
Yeah,
but
Pax is right. These guys have been to war with you.
No. What Kelsey could have done was directed to management. Bring Jones back. We need him.
I don't think you could do that in either direction. I think that what Kelsey probably did, and I didn't hear it, so I could be way off base. But if I was Kelsey and I wanted to try to send a message from the team as the team spokesperson, which he is, I would say, listen, we are a much better team with you on our team. We need you to be happy coming back. We don't want you to be miserable coming back because you are a big part of our defense and everything that we got moving forward. So
the
please
Cowboys
come
just
back.
did it with Zach Martin. That's what they did with Zach Martin. They knew they needed Zach Martin. And he's telling the truth. I mean, this guy is a unique player, regardless of you. This guy had 14 and a half sacks at a defensive tackle.
Oh, great.
Guys, what do you feel, speaking with Dallas now, of Jerry Jones not telling Mike McCarthy beforehand they were going to trade for Trey Lance? In my opinion, I saw nothing wrong with it, but Jerry Jones has been criticized over it.
That shows there ain't no communication between Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy.
I don't think it matters.
Oh,
I don't think it matters.
I think it matters 100%.
I don't think it matters.
Jim, you need to tell me.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
This guy is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He is he is the third team coach. He's going to be sitting over there. He ain't even going to be dressed. He's not even going to be dressed. He's going to be
Jim. When you're trying to tell me if you were coaching and a GM just threw somebody at you without telling you wouldn't be upset?
No.
They're not telling him to play Trey Lance.
What he's going to be doing is scout team. That's all he's going to be doing. He's a scout.
Still a member of the team. He's still all right. And it's not like he had to compete to be a member of the team, right? They just brought him over and said, "Here, that's Trey Lance. You take care of him." You wouldn't be upset about that. I would be. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that at all.
But they didn't trade an active player who Mike McCarthy would be using this year. It's for a draft choice next year. That's the difference involved. If it was an active player that Mike McCarthy was counting on this year, then yes, then Jerry Jones should have spoken to him about it, but that's not the case.
I would want to know if I got to babysit somebody. If I got to babysit somebody's
I
kid.
have to babysit him. He's a third-string quarterback this year, and it's a look towards the future, possibly.
Let's talk about the Colts a little bit. The GM, Chris Ballard, has fans upset with the Andrew Luck comments. I don't know if you guys saw this. Anthony Richardson, of course, they were talking about, not having his running back there. And the GM decided to talk about to throw Andrew Luck comments in there, saying Luck wasn't affected when the running game wasn't there, when in fact Luck got injured and retired at 29 years old. I mean, what is wrong with the Colts owner and GM there? Do they understand that players are going to get ticked off and fans are going to get ticked off if you just keep running off at the mouth over things like this?
Well, I'm going to say this: the relationship with the Colts of Jonathan Taylor is too far gone to ever be repaired, unless they suddenly decide to pay Jonathan Taylor. If they do, maybe all will be forgiven and everyone can move forward in harmony. Otherwise, it's too far gone. And the Colts dug themselves a hole. They're not going to get back in draft choices what Jonathan Taylor's value is going to be. And he's going to pick his spots coming back. Because of the contract issues, he's not going to be able to get paid for a couple of years anyway, and he's going to have to perform in the interim to get paid the way he wants. It's a lose-lose situation for both sides.
Any comments, Jim?
Well, I just think everything you guys have said, this is a difficult situation. And that's for the majority of running backs in the NFL right now, is that they're probably, as a group, underpaid. Not probably, they definitely are. But that's what we see. And this the most important parts are different of your team are the wide receivers, quarterbacks, and other positions. The running backs are less emphasized. That doesn't mean they're not talented, because we saw it with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley was the biggest part of the Giants, and they didn't really want to pay him. And they didn't. He signed a one-year deal. Josh Jacobs signed a one-year deal.
But they're getting about 10, 11 million, and Jonathan Taylor's getting like 4 million. So that's kind of a substantial.
And that's the argument, but it's just they're de-emphasizing that position, and it's unfortunate because there's still a lot of talent.
Well, I want to talk about the GM part of it. That's why I brought it up.
Well, the GM, he said some interesting things. He said it's a terrible situation, obviously, with Jonathan Taylor. He was more actually. He's basically saying, "Hey, I don't control this. Irsay is controlling this. This is what Irsay wants," and that's the problem. He probably doesn't believe in what Irsay is doing to the kid, but he doesn't have the choice in the matter.
So is now Colts going to be like the Washington Commanders, where the owner is kind of, just
the ex-owner,
right? Do you think that maybe this is going to be a franchise that maybe people aren't going to want to go play for, Jim?
I would think so. Because I think they're going to struggle. I think as a franchise they're going to struggle, and it's just not an attractive place to go at this point, because they're seeing guys are reading about this and how that kid is being. And there's a way to do it. There's certain ways to do it, and they're doing it in a confrontational way.
Guys, but Irsay has been around for a while. He's been the owner a lot of years of the Colts.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been issues with him as an owner where the players dislike him.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Jack. I was looking at, and maybe I'm wrong, but I was looking at Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning went to the Green Bay Packers to help Jordan Love. He didn't go to the Indianapolis Colts to help Anthony Richardson. I thought that was interesting. Did you know that? He went there to help Jordan. I don't know if there's some connection there, but I thought that was pretty interesting, and that was telltale sign.
Huh.
And
that
Peyton
is interesting.
won the Super Bowl with them and Denver.
Yeah.
Did you find that interesting?
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I don't. Maybe there's some personal thing. Maybe a new coach, Jim.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe
there's a lot of things.
How Irsay operates.
Right.
Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes where Peyton could be a minority owner of the Packers or something like that, because he sees as Brady a minority owner of the Raiders. How does this minority owner thing work? Because Robert Kraft loves Brady like a son, but he doesn't want to give up a minority share, like a 2% or whatever.
I don't
If he
know.
was going to do it for anyone, he would want it to be Tom Brady, who's kind of reportedly like family to him. But why would Brady be able to get that type of deal with the Raiders, but not with the Patriots? Or
Probably
the
needs
Buccaneers, for
they
that
probably
matter?
need some investing money, and Davis. So who knows?
It could be. They're already talking about it in Arizona. They're already talking about Caleb Williams. Played a good game yesterday with USC. Do you think, Jim, the people say teams tank. I don't know if that's true or not. I think maybe they're just not good teams. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't think the Cardinals, any of those players are going to tank. They all got jobs. They all want to continue to work. They all want to put good film on there. I don't think they tank on purpose. You would know better than anybody else.
No, I don't think they tank. But I had a question for all you guys. Kyler Murray, we saw, and I told you the issues with him already. Very self-centered and stuff. Now they're saying he didn't really study or anything. He just went, used his athleticism. Caleb Williams, and he's from that same system. And I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is the same guy, but Kyler Murray, who would you trade for Kyler Murray? That's what I'm asking. Would you trade for Kyler Murray?
Not up for that contract, to assume it. They already gave.
That's all I'm asking
money.
you guys. Would you trade for him?
No.
I personally, I don't think so. From what I understand, I mean, as far as they go, selfishness, blah 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 blah, all the things, and he hasn't. To me, he was a splash in the pan. He had what 1-2 good years. That was it.
But that's the point, Mac. That's the point. Once a quarterback can have an outstanding season, it shows that he's a quality NFL quarterback. It's just a matter of sustaining it, making adjustments. Let's compare it to Zach Wilson with the Jets. He hasn't had a good year yet. He hasn't proven anything. Kyler Murray's proven he could be a top-of-the-line NFL quarterback. So why isn't he any?
After 1 or 2 years, that proves he's a top-line quarterback?
It proves if you could do it for 1 year, you could do it for 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, same thing with RG3, but RG3 got injured. They kind of threw him to the wolves in a way. He shouldn't have been getting hurt, though. He played when he was hurt. But Kyler Murray, I think it's an attitude and maturity thing. He's got all the physical tools. He's proved what he can do when he really wants to.
But isn't that part of being a good quarterback to use all your tools, study? Isn't that part of the whole thing? I mean, Pax, what do you think? You're being quiet over there. You think Kyler Murray, because he showed 1 year that he could play, in the NFL and be someone successful, that makes him that he could do it again, or that he's a good quarterback?
Hold on. Me. I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because I think that's his song. You know what I mean? I don't think he cares about anybody else. They should have kept it in there where he had to do the study. He was forced to do study protocols, and he didn't do it. And you see what happened. And now they got that Gannon in there, and I tell you, that is going to be. You want to talk about somebody taking over for Houston as the Drek of the NFL. There you have it. Let me introduce to you the Arizona Cardinals.
I think you're right, Pags. And I think that.
And that's what just basically Caleb Williams is talking about, staying in college if the Cardinals become the number one choice. That's scary. And he makes enough money in NILs.
That's the truth. I mean, he's already on big commercials. I forget which chain he's with. He's already making big, huge commercials.
No, you could call that bluff. People forget Peyton Manning could have came out of college and played for the Jets, but he stayed in college an extra year just to avoid playing for the Jets.
Yeah. So
he didn't want to have you talk about him, Jack.
And then you look at John Elway. John Elway went and played baseball because he didn't want to play for the Colts.
Very true.
Eli Manning not wanting to play for the Chargers. You want to know something? It turned out well for these quarterbacks, these moves that they made. And Arizona's an awful situation to go. It'll be an awful situation
Because they got
year.
more issues than we're talking about. Did you hear what Wilkes said? What they were doing with the burner phones and all the stuff that they were doing there? Who knows what's going to come out of that?
I didn't hear nothing about no burner phone.
Oh, yeah. The general manager who was recently there, they had suspended him. The NFL had suspended him, and the owner made him get on burner phones to make moves within the organization, and they have all the records of it. And that was because of that. The guy who worked for the general manager just blew the whole thing off the top.
Okay. All right. Interesting. I agree with that, Pickle.
Bryce Young, similar to Kyler Murray. I don't think so.
Bryce Young is going to be a top-of-the-line NFL quarterback. By the end of this season, he'll have it together. You're going to see. He's going to be really good.
He'll be hurt on the sidelines carrying a clipboard.
CJ Stroud will ultimately, I think, be better than Bryce Young, but not this season.
No, I don't
but I think the 1-2 selections with the quarterbacks, Young and Stroud, are going to work out for both.
Guys, we got a Thursday night game that we won't be able to pick Sunday, and Buffalo Bills is going up against New York Jets and some kind of quarterback that they just picked up. I'm not sure who he is. What do you like there? Who do you like in the game?
That's Monday. That's the Monday game. Yeah, that's
Thursday would be Kansas City, would it not? Against the Bills.
Sorry, Kansas City against Detroit, right? Am I right?
No, can't be Detroit, is it?
Yeah, I think it's in Detroit, I believe. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, it's Kansas City against Detroit, opening game Thursday
in
night.
Detroit.
Yeah, yes. Who do you got, Jim?
I'm gonna go with Kansas City in that game.
All right.
Yeah, it is Kansas City, Detroit. I'm gonna go with Kansas City. I think it's gonna be a high-scoring game.
Really, I think so too. I agree with it. Go ahead.
I'm going to go with Detroit in that game. The last couple of seasons, Detroit has lost so many close games early in the year. And I don't want to hear one of these where they lose 37-34, something like that. Detroit's got to make a statement. Game's in Kansas City.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm going to go with Detroit to upset. Yeah, I'll agree with Pickles. To upset Kansas City in the opener. Very close game. But listen, the Chiefs could send a powerful statement by winning decisively and showing they haven't missed a beat.
What do you got, Pags? Detroit, Kansas City.
I got Kansas City winning that one.
Okay, all right. I think so too. I agree with Jim and Pags. It's in Kansas City. That's one heck of a stadium to play in. Detroit, I'm not sold on Detroit yet, Jack. I don't know. I'm just not sold on them yet.
Well, they're in such a weak division this year. You wonder what the Vikings. Everyone is expecting the Vikings to take a dip, but Brian Flores is their offensive coordinator. Is he an X factor? Is he going to, and giving up on Cook in their running game?
But he's the defensive coordinator.
Defensive coordinator, Jack.
No, I mean the defensive coordinator, but I'm saying with Brian Flores there, their defense was lacking, especially in the playoff game against the Giants. And Justin Jefferson, everyone is talking about him being now the #1 receiver in the NFL. He took a big leap last year.
They still got a lot of talent. I don't know if the drop is going to be that. I'm not sold on Detroit either. And I like Dan a lot, Campbell, but there's something that's bothering me about, and it's not golf. It's just I don't know. They really struggle defensively.
It looks like the suspensions on the gambling issue.
Detroit, for some reason, I don't know what it is with Detroit, and they've had talented teams in the past. For some reason, just playing in Detroit it's like the Bermuda Triangle.
And they struggled defensively last year.
Have you ever lived in Detroit for a little while?
Me?
Has anybody?
No.
I passed through.
I lived in Detroit for some time, for a small amount of time, and even the sunniest of days looks overcast, and I think that gets to you. I think that gets to you a little bit. I mean, it's the big three are up there. I mean, it's a lot of industry, and it creates a lot of smog. And that might be. I mean, you never really talk about it like that. The outside factors that create some of this, but these guys live there all the time, so they're breathing that stuff in. It seems so juvenile to think about it in weirdo things like that, but that may actually have a part to play.
It could possibly. I just something about it. In with even the Barry Sanders era and all the great players, like you said, that you guys were saying, there is always something missing.
They haven't had a good winning season to like Alex Karras back in the 50s or something where it was there.
No, they had some in the 90s.
Lomas Brown. In fact, I got to interview him not too long
Yeah,
ago.
they've had some in the 90s. They were a playoff team.
But you got to play like Hutchinson anchoring their defense. There's a certain energy there that's been absent in past years.
We'll see.
And Dan Campbell, the type of coach he is, it's just something about Detroit. I feel this is their time to take a jump up. But the Super Bowl, not quite, but I think they're genuine contenders this year.
Hey, get them to win a playoff game, and that'd be a big deal for them.
There you go. One more.
I hear they're looking at some people from Winnipeg to come on over after Winnipeg wins their championship.
Guys, one other thing I want your comments on before we go. T.J. Hutchinson, tight end, signs a huge deal
with Minnesota.
This is going to set the bar again. Here we go again, right? He's going to make a little bit more. Then you're going to have Kittle's going to want a little bit more, and then Waller's going to want. Is that worth the price? I mean, just to get a tight end, Minnesota, I don't think is going to do a lot this year, in my opinion. Anyway, he's not an all-star wide receiver. He's a good tight end. He's better than average. You think that's worth it? What was it like? I don't know. It's like $54 million for $54.9 million contract.
Well, you kind of wonder what they're thinking as far as Kirk Cousins goes. I mean, getting it's tight end locked up because they're going to have to deal with Cousins' contract at the end of the year. They either move on from him, and if they don't, they're going to have to pay him big money. And I no idea what Minnesota's thinking of down the road.
I think they're going to move on from Cousins in the next couple of years. Because you remember at one time he was the highest paid player in the NFL, and I think they're looking. Yeah, and I'm not saying
the succession plan. They're not going to draft high enough to get one of the elite college quarterbacks.
They're going to trade for Kyler Murray.
Or they're going to trade picks to get one. Pags, what do you think? What do you think? I mean, the Eagles just got tight end city over there. You guys, I mean, I think two of your tight ends are better than this guy. What do you think about, again, here we go, a tight end setting a market that other tight ends are going to want to, to build upon and get higher paid than him?
I'm looking for it. How many years is it?
I think it's a 3-year contract, if I'm not mistaken.
3-year for $54 million?
I'm not sure.
That's way
over. He's the highest tight end, I think, in NFL, highest paid tight end in NFL history. Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So, well, you know what? I kind of look at it like, similar to what they did with Deshaun Watson, that teams were not going to go as crazy as what Deshaun Watson got, that they will dismiss that. They'll be like, okay, that's why Minnesota, you stink, and we are better than you. So I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to dismiss that. That they're not going to be the anomaly.
No, Pax. Deshaun Watson wasn't the highest paid quarterback in football. He had the highest guaranteed contract.
Right, but now even with any quarterback that signed recently didn't get anywhere close to the guaranteed money that he got.
Yeah.
So they stayed true to that. They said Cleveland's the outlier. So I feel like the same way. Minnesota's the outlier here.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. It was $68.5 million with an average of 17.1 a year. So, and it was
way ridiculous.
So what it was a 4-year contract? 4 years?
And I think it was guaranteed was 54.9, if I'm not mistaken. I know that number was in there somewhere, Jim. I could be wrong.
Mhm.
But anyway, so folks, that's it for the Mac, Jack, and Jim Big Football Show. Thanks to Keith Angle, of course, Pags, the Philly sports guy, and Robert for coming in. Thanks for joining us in all the comments and views. We have a great time doing it. Next week, we'll be back. We'll be talking actually games, picking games and stuff like that. Of course, college football will be up and going. So, folks, have a great Sunday. See Jim Wednesday night with Byron Williams on J&B Talking Shop. Wednesday at 8 p.m. Jack is in with Frank Laterzo on Golden Glove Fist. I got a new name for you, Jack. Glove Fist with Jack Hirsch and Frank Laterzo. And, of course, they're the two boxing experts we have on our network. And, of course, Pags. Look, Phil, as long as the Phillies are playing, you'll find Pags at the games, I think, because it's getting exciting right now in baseball for the Philadelphia Phillies, as they're still very much in the hunt to maybe go back to a second World Series. Exciting stuff. Have a great Sunday, folks. We'll see you later.
Have a great Sunday.
Good. I always root for them to be good because it's better for the game. But let's face it, Notre Dame came crawling to the ACC that year because they couldn't schedule. They would not have had a season during COVID if the ACC didn't let them play a full schedule instead of the 4 or 5 games they schedule every year. So that it was an aberration. And by the way, the ACC screwed up big time. They should have let them in and should have kept their foot on their throat and said, we'll let you in, but you're not in for this year. You're in for the long haul. But teams are doing what they had to do during COVID to keep the programs solid. Why would they? First of all, they only play. They don't still play in the ACC. They can't be the face of the ACC. And I still, if Notre Dame went and played in the ACC forever, which they have an agreement to do, by the way, if they ever join a conference, which they're not. Notre Dame played there 1 year. They're not the face of the conference. If they went there and still won 5 conference championships in a row, they wouldn't be the face of the conference. It'd still be Clemson until Clemson jumps to the SEC or wherever. Notre Dame go to the Big Ten. They're not going to be the face of the Big Ten. They're more associated with the Big Ten to me than they are with others because of where they are regionally, who they play, who they have played a lot with over the years. Michigan a lot. Michigan State a lot, Ohio State a lot, Purdue every year. No, Notre Dame was seriously. You really think Notre Dame was a face of the ACC? 9 times a casual fan would never even know they played in the ACC that year. Never. They had a good team. We can't get off college football today. They even brought back LSU, then the Tide. Don't forget Michigan State before that. Saban brought back LSU, then the Tide, mixed in the Gators, and the SEC was relevant even when Miami and FSU. I agreed. SEC was always, well, I shouldn't say always. I would say since the early 70s, maybe in the late 60s, the SEC, it was a Big Ten and even the Pac-12, I think were more relevant than the SEC up until the late 60s into the 70s. So I think they were more relevant even before that. But to your point, Saban did bring back LSU when they were down. They did bring back the Tide when they were down. Florida was really good. Watch Gator Kings, by the way, on Netflix. Great documentary about the Urban Meyer Florida Gators. My only problem was that they stayed away from the bad side. They talked about it. They touched on the issues that they had when people run wild. But you see about 10 seconds of Aaron Hernandez in the whole thing. People or Jack? Huh? Notre Dame. Not sure what that's about. Oh, Jack not thinking Notre Dame is relevant? No, I have heard it. I get it now. Yes, Jack did. We think Jack said that. I don't remember for a fact. But listen, if you read enough articles around, and then I read the comments. So I like The Athletic. I read The Athletic a lot, although it's gotten bad since New York Times bought it and laid off half their best writers. But you read the articles about that Notre Dame are a part of, and the comments in there, we know Notre Dame's a polarizing brand. I'll use the word again. You either love them or you hate them. Or you're like me. You want them to be good because the game's better with them. But there's tons of negative comments about Notre Dame's not relevant anymore. Notre Dame hasn't been relevant in 30 years in college football. Notre Dame this, Notre Dame that. Notre Dame's got to join a conference. Notre Dame, no. Well, I didn't say they begged. They had to. They did have to beg that year, Kenny, or there would have been no football. They had to ask to join as a full member for 1 year so they could play football that year. Otherwise, they would have had about 4 games on the schedule. The Pac-12 wasn't playing. They ended up playing 4 games or something. The Big Ten wasn't playing. They ended up playing a very short schedule. And as it turned out, maybe they could have filled their schedule out because conferences that weren't going to play did play. But it's a fact. It's a fact. Maybe begs the wrong word. But the ACC had to agree to let them be a 1-year member. That's all I'm saying. If I use the wrong terminology, I apologize. But, you're right. Listen, I'm not saying Notre Dame is weak and needs to beg. That year they needed help and they asked for it. That's all I'm saying. ACC needs a facelift, so they asked them. No, that's not what happened. That is not what happened at all, Kenny. That's not even close to what happened. It was COVID. Half the leagues weren't going to play a season. So Notre Dame didn't have any games on their schedule that they could count on. They went to the ACC and said, let us play a full schedule. That's why ACC, you don't do a facelift for 1 year and then let your face fall off again. If the ACC had gone to them, it would have been for a full membership. And believe me, they asked the ACC to schedule them teams every single year. This is a mutual thing. The ACC didn't go begging Notre Dame to play 4 games, 5 games, whatever it is now. But it is a fact. And I'll go find an article if you want from 2020, if I can find one. Notre Dame wasn't going to have a team. They weren't going to be able to have a schedule. I'm not making this shit up. Man, I defend Notre Dame more than anybody, but I'm going to report the facts the way I see them. Had nothing to do with a facelift. It had to do with COVID. End of story. Week 1 went as expected for most games. Lots of blowouts. I don't think it went as expected, by the way. TCU was expected to blow out Colorado. Texas Tech, as I've talked about, Carlos, I'm not going to get into this. We're going to move to some baseball here in a little bit. And any NFL news we might have going on. I've talked about college football for longer than I should, but I got a show for it on Wednesday. Baylor gets beat by Texas State. Everybody's, not everybody, a lot of people's trendy pick of Texas Tech in the Big 12 goes down to Wyoming, which I called, if you remember. Also blew my Colorado pick. So Oklahoma or Ohio State didn't look great. Boise didn't give Washington the battle they thought they'd have. So there was some interesting games, but most of the games went to, but as expected, because many of them were very lopsided. I got a rant here, by the way. Oregon and Oak, big deal. It doesn't. It's these games are irrelevant to me. I said this earlier. Again, I'm not getting. And again, I picked Oklahoma to get to the Final Four. I'm not getting too excited or too disappointed in teams based off of 1 week. Now, some teams may springboard off this. Colorado could springboard off this and have a really good year, but they're going to struggle in the Pac-10. Wyoming, these are springboard games for some people, but Oklahoma and Oregon, you don't springboard off beating the Little Sisters of the Poor by 70 or 80 points. Well, I don't have a problem with those scores, as I said. That's not a springboard game. I do have a comment, by the way. Not boiling. I told Drew one day when we talked about this, I said, my shows, especially this show, I'm trying to build up my tolerance. I like my blood pressure to get built up as far as I can, as close as I can to having a stroke. That way I become much more, I have more tolerance against possibly stroking out at some point. I kid. Syracuse did score. Again, it's not a big deal either. Syracuse played Colgate. Colgate hasn't had a good team since Ed Marinaro went there and finished third in the Heisman. I do have a gripe. Carlos, I saw some text. Sorry, Carlos, I couldn't get back to you. I was busy with some things going on here. But anybody who has Spectrum, and I think, Rick, you and I talked that might have been on a post, or maybe not. I was on a post with some other people on Facebook talking about this yesterday. Spectrum now is in a dispute with Disney. So I'm not sure why ABC we're getting, but we're getting no ABC, no ESPN, no ESPN2, no ESPN3, no ESPNU, no SEC network, no ACC network, no Pac-12 network. All the games on those networks you can't watch right now if you have Spectrum or Charter. Can't watch them. So great timing. Pull those games the first week of college football. This better be fixed by week 2, or I'll be off Spectrum and back on DirecTV streaming by Friday. And by the way, here's why I'm doubly mad. So I could watch the CBS games yesterday. There was a few other places I could find some games, but coming up, a lot of these games are going to be, I want to watch, are going to be on ABC, ESPN. I'm not sure why ABC's left out of this, but because they're all owned by the same company. Here's why I'm doubly mad. I get it. TV providers like Spectrum and DirecTV, I don't even know if they got Fox back yet. Kenny, you can tell me they got Fox. I got rid of it when I moved, so I don't know. But that dispute was going on for nearly a year. We didn't have Fox. I get TV providers have disputes. The channels want to raise the price, which they don't want to pass it on to people who don't want to watch those channels because they're not going to eat the increase. They're going to pass it along to us. I'm okay with that. People who don't watch sports aren't, or whatever the programming might be. My real problem is the fact that I also pay for ESPN Plus, $6.99 a month, which allows me to put an app on my phone, on my computer, and watch everything on ESPN. I couldn't watch Game Day yesterday. So they're double dipping me for ESPN, basically. I'm allowing them to because I pay for extra content on ESPN Plus. I can still watch stuff. I can watch the 30 for 30s. I can watch whatever I want on ESPN Plus that isn't live. Could not watch Game Day. Couldn't watch any games. 20 games, 30 games across the board on ESPN Plus yesterday. Couldn't watch one of them. So it's not going to do me any good to call Spectrum because that's good. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. One person, 20 people aren't going to make a difference. 1 million people aren't going to make a difference. I'm calling ESPN about my ESPN Plus package and tell them you can drop me or give me access. I'm not watching through Spectrum. I'm watching through an app, an independent app on my phone and on my computer. That's bullshit in the worst. Excuse my French. I've said shit 3 times now. I'm going to get kicked off the air. Man, I'm mad. I was so mad. And this happened right before the Utah-Florida game. Just before kickoff. Gone. Ugh. What do we got here? Oh, here. It used to be Billy and Carlos. You may have moved up in the ranking. It's a fluid thing. It's a competitive thing. Don't ever take offense. I enjoy this. One of the reasons I like this is I can't sit here and argue sports with my wife. She doesn't care. She likes to watch the games with me, but I can't get into arguments with her. But I like doing this. I like people with different opinions so that I can argue with them, tell them why they're wrong. Like I'm right. It's been a year and you still don't get Fox. So there you go. So I didn't get DirecTV when I moved. Oh, and Dish has the same dispute. So this was, I know I had it because of Mission Broadcast. Maybe Mission Broadcasting owns Dish and DirecTV because that's who disputes with, Mission Broadcasting, and I had DirecTV. So I could watch Fox games yesterday. I could watch FS1. I could watch CBS, but that's it. It's another 40 freaking games on ESPN Plus. The games on TV are one thing, and I get it. There's disputes, whatever. But I'm paying you $7 extra a month, not to anybody. I'm not paying it to Spectrum. I'm paying it directly to ESPN or Disney or whoever you want to say to use your app. And because you got a dispute with the TV provider that I use that I'm not watching it through on your app, you're not letting me watch the games? I'll start a freaking class action suit. To the moon, Spectrum, to the moon, right? Unbelievable. I had to do Duffy's last night because I don't have it here. Still no Fox and DirecTV. Amazing. It's probably over a year. Or maybe it's just a year. It might have happened just before football season started last year. You watched it. I wasn't allowed to watch it on ESPN Plus. Again, I'm guessing I'm blocked because my TV provider is Spectrum. Should not matter. I'm not watching. I'm watching it totally independent of my access to Spectrum. Totally independent. It's your app, ESPN. They're getting a phone call Tuesday. I'm not calling Spectrum. It won't do any good. Well, first of all, Fubu's missing a bunch of channels. They don't have Yes. YouTube doesn't have Yes. They don't mean no good. They don't have the Yes network. I'm not getting them. That's why I trialed YouTube. I trialed Fubu. I trialed Sling. None of them had the Yes network. And no Yankee games for me. So no, I'm not moving. That's a prerequisite for me. Yeah, it's becoming a nasty word day, right? Oh, man, my wife was like, calm down. I'm like, bullshit. Did it again. Oh, your bill went up $5? Well, that's because they're giving you less choices. So they made your life easier, Rick, because you don't have as many channels to choose from. They're streamlining your life, so they're charging you for that. I think that's perfectly acceptable. Yeah, well, there you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Carl. And I don't know if you have, I don't know why you have the same issue. I think you said you had an issue with CBS, which we didn't have. So you've probably got, I don't know, maybe you got Comcast down there. I don't know who you have, Carlos, but or Charter. I'm not sure which you have. So I think there's different disputes with different providers. It's ridiculous. For Fox right before the World Series. Is that right? Is that when it went down? You're probably right. Fubu has, yes. That's something new then. I'll check out Fubu. I downloaded the app yesterday. I gave it a shot. There's other things it's got to have too, and I got to check out the price. I'm just so irritated with this. I'm tired of whatever. I mean, I should get rid of every provider and just go totally with that, but you got to have some provider. And that's what Carlos, I think, is saying. Get basic service and download a bunch of apps. Problem is my wife doesn't want to watch it that way. My wife needs her neat little guides, which, we're old. We get used to our set in our ways. I've gotten very used to watching, and we watch a lot of stuff on different apps now anyway. So, most of what we watch, we don't just go to Spectrum and watch down the app. Ricky Keith, stop by and smoke with you, and then we can watch professional pillow fights. I can't because they were on ESPN. I can't even watch the foot golf or the pillow fighting because, oh, man. You like the view better here? Check it out after the show. Or Drew, I don't know where Drew is. I don't know. We might have gotten into too much college football for Drew today. Or Drew might be busy with some other stuff. It's his anniversary weekend, I believe. Maybe they're out. Maybe they're away. So I'm not sure. Yeah. So I'm not sure. He's missed though, as always. We like Drew's comments for sure. Let me look at a little Major League. We got time for baseball at all today? I mean, gosh, here I am not talking baseball at all. What's going on in baseball? John Gonzalez talked about, and John's probably gone by now because I had to go on my rant about my TV. Exciting night finally for the Yankees. They've called up the kids. We know Wells got brought up. We know Dominguez got brought up. They're gonna play. And Friday night they both started. Dominguez in center field and Wells at catcher. Question is going to be whether he stays at catcher. If he's defensively, he can improve. But they both get base hits in their first major league at bats. In fact, Dominguez goes deep, hits a home run in his first major league at bat. There's not a long list of players that can say that, and he's also the youngest Yankee ever to hit a home run in his first at bat. So, congratulations to them. I gotta get ticked off too a little bit. I mean, one of the headlines on ESPN today is Acuna blasts Dodgers with hardest hit ball in 2023. Who cares how hard you hit the ball? Oh my God! All that matters is you hit a home run. I'm so tired of exit velocity nonsense, launch angle nonsense. Oh boy. Anyway, congratulations on the what was I going to say? The Braves being the first team to get the 90 wins. The Reds have had some struggles recently, and they've had a fourth pitcher test positive for COVID here just this week. I think it started with who did it start with? Is it not here? That's too funny. Brandon Williamson tested positive. He'll miss his start today. Hunter Green was a guy I was thinking of. He started. Then he was followed by Fernando Cruz and Ben Lively. So not a good time for the Reds to be without starting pitchers as they're trying to battle and stay in this wild card race. And we'll look at that in just a second. The Orioles claimed Lopez, who was pitching great for them last year before they traded him to the Twins. He was put on waivers and claimed by he put on waivers by the Marlins and claimed by the Orioles to maybe strengthen an already very strong bullpen. Danny Jansen goes on the DL. Let's see if there's any major news. Some interesting stuff, by the way. Yankees waived Harrison Bader. The Reds picked him up. The Angels waived like everybody on their team, and a few guys were picked up. Hunter Renfroe goes to the Reds. Giolito, who had just been let go by, or just been traded at the trade deadline from the White Sox, was let go and picked up, or put on waivers and picked up by, gosh, now it's skipping my mind who he got picked up by. I think it was it the Cubs? Who was it? Crap, I can't remember now. Isn't that weird? Now I can't remember. I will look at the standings and maybe it'll come to me when I see the teams. Let me, we got some comments here before I jump on to the standings in the American League and the National League. You got some time if you go a little over. Yeah, we'll probably go over. But a great day. No baseball. Thought the earth froze over. By the way, are there any games scheduled? I got to look. Here's our Major League Baseball. And again, I know Kenny doesn't want to see Major League Baseball, but Major League Baseball is known for playing on Memorial Day, Labor Day. Give us day games. Yankees don't play a day game. Yankees don't even play on Labor Day. The Mets, I don't think, are playing on Labor Day. I don't see them on the schedule. And there's like only a handful of day games. Well, you got some 4 o'clock starts. I mean, baseball, this is where baseball loses their way. Same thing happened on Memorial Day. Same thing happens on the 4th of July. No, I'm going there, Rick. I'm going there. Don't worry. I'll get to your comment in a second. I'm only skipping it because, yeah, launch angle. Launch angle is important to spaceships, yes. Either ours or the aliens. But who cares? I mean, by the way, Hal Steinbrenner said he's reevaluating the whole analytics department because what we're doing doesn't work. And a lot of their approach to hitting is about exit velocity and launch angle, and it's I almost said it again. Yankees did play a bunch of games this year and didn't play them very well. So let's look quickly. I'm going to start because I'm going to start out west because I don't always do that. And I'm sure Alan's gone because I think Alan does a show. But the Rangers are imploding before our very eyes. Just when they started to suck me in and think I was really wrong about this team. They go 3-7 in their last 10. They got to be about, 10-25 over the last 35. They're not only lost the lead to the Mariners, they're in 3rd place behind the Astros, and they are just a game and a half ahead of the Blue Jays for the last wild card spot. Said it before. This team might not be ready to win. The moves they made at the trade deadline aren't working. Scherzer hasn't pitched badly. I'm not sure about Montgomery. But all I know is they're losing games. So right now, I had predicted Astros Seattle would fight it out for the title. And as September begins, I'm right. And the Astros have lost a couple in a row as well. The Mariners have been one of the hottest teams in baseball. Really recovered from a putrid start. I thought Scott Service might get fired. But it's been interesting. Since the trade deadline, the Rangers have gone south. Well, it started around the All-Star break. Since the trade deadline, they've gone south. The Angels what a horrendous effort as they think they're going to sign Ohtani. It's probably not going to happen. And the A's are ruining their chance to lose 121 games by going on a winning streak because now they'll have to go 1. I thought they had it in them to go 3-something or 5-something, I guess it was last week. Now they got to go 1. No, they'd have to lose. Yeah, to do it now, they'd have to lose all their games. They'd have to lose all their remaining games. I'd like to think they got it in them, but, even a blind squirrel's going to find what do you call those things? An acorn eventually. It's an acorn? Anyway, in the East, the Yankees playing better baseball, 6-4 in their last 10, won their last 2. They're even interesting to watch because I get to watch Peraza and Wells and Dominguez, the Martian. I get to see some of the kids and see at least some excitement, some energy on the field. Stanton, he's red hot now. It doesn't matter. Thank you, Giancarlo. But the Orioles continue to lead that division over the Rays by 2.5. Both are 7-3 in their last 10. Don't count the Rays out here yet, but the Orioles are good. Starting pitching still scares me a bit. Blue Jays trying to hang in there. As I said, 1.5 games behind the Rangers. They have made up a game in the last couple days. Red Sox, I think they want to think they're in it. They're 5.5 out of the wild card. Not going to happen. Twins. Oh, the Guardians. That's who picked up Giolito. The Guardians, 4 games. Guardians. Teams formerly known as the Indians. 5 games under 500. 4 games under 500. 5 games back of the Twins. Their only path to the playoffs is a division victory. They made a bunch of claims on waivers the other day. And it's going to be interesting to see. They think, and again, they're low risk. I think they got to pay these guys maybe $3 million for the remainder of the year. I think they're all free agents at the end of the year. So not a lot of risk. They've won 4 in a row since the waiver deadline. But they haven't made up any ground. Well, they have made up 2 games, I guess. A game. They made up a game. And they've got a 5% chance of making the playoffs. Tigers, White Sox, and Royals stink. The Royals and A's in a great battle for the worst record in baseball. So we talked about the West. Let's go out east. In the American League or the National League, the Braves. Boredom is their biggest enemy, and they're not bored. Acuna is the first player ever to go 30 home runs and 60 RBIs. He's your National League MVP. I would be certain of it right this minute. 9-1 in their last 10, 6 in a row. Get to 90 wins. Stretch the lead over to the Phillies to 16. This team has it all. This is the most balanced team in baseball. I said Friday on the MLB show. I've been saying it for weeks. I'm still sticking with my Astros Braves rematch from 2 years ago in the World Series. And I will take the Astros to 2-peat. The Astros have been able to hang in with injuries to a lot of their pitching staff, injuries to some of their best hitters, and off years by some of their best hitters. Pena has really dropped off. Bregman has not had a great year. They missed Altuve for a huge part of the season, and yet they're a game behind the Mariners. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be dangerous. And I'm going to get into some of your comments if there's some after I go through this. The Marlins have won 3 in a row again. The Phillies are back on a losing streak. One of the most up and down teams in baseball. I don't give them much hope. The Mets have climbed out of the cellar by percentage points. Well, I started to say the Marlins won 3 in a row back in a wild card race. We'll look at that in a second. The Cubs, who I keep saying made a huge mistake in the way they put this team together and then not unloading a lot of these guys at the trade deadline. It made me look bad for a while. Now they've lost a couple in a row. We'll see if they're on the other way. The Reds battling, as I said, picking up Harrison Bader and Renfroe, who will probably play a lot. Now they're battling COVID issues in their pitching staff. They have won their last couple of games. We'll look at the wild card race in a second. The Dodgers running away with the West. And again, as I said, maybe the Atlanta managers should be considered, but I think Dave Roberts has done the best job in baseball this year. The Dodgers have lost 3 in a row, but they're going to make the playoffs easily. The Giants still trying to hang in that wild card race. The Diamondbacks trying to hang in that wild card race. and the Padres have finally buried themselves. Again, if we look at the National League wild card race, you've got the Phillies with the top spot, the Cubs still in the second place, the second pick, 2 games ahead of both the Giants, the Diamondbacks, all three, the Diamondbacks, Giants, and Reds, all there. The Marlins only 1 game back. So you got a great race for the American League East. You've got maybe we'll see a fun race between a team formerly known as the Indians and the Twins in the Central. You got a great race in the AL West. Great race in the NL Central, maybe. But the wild card race in the National League is probably the best one. In the American League, you've really got, 3 teams fighting for 2 spots, I would say, in the Astros, Rangers, and Blue Jays. You can throw the Mariners in there, depending who wins the West. And drop the other team. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams still in play for 3 spots. And if I want to say the Phillies are in, I've got 5 teams in play for 2 spots in the National League. So fun times in baseball. We did talk about this. We did talk about that. What do we got going here? Why do they call him the Martian? I think it's because of his out of this world talent, Rick. He's a 5-tool player. He can hit with power. He can run the bases, steal bases. He's fast. And he plays defense. So he does it all. And I think that's why they call him the Martian. He's not the only guy to have those tools, obviously, ever. But that's the reason. I'll look quick just to see if there's some other reason. I don't think he's from Mars. Just to be clear while I look for this, I do not think I'm going to find they called Dominguez the Martian because he's from Mars. If they do, I'll sign off quickly. And Dominguez. It'd be very funny if that's what I find out, right? He's often known as Al Amarchino or the Martian. The nickname was first attributed to him by a scout in the Dominican. The scout was so captivated by his talent that he declared that Dominguez looked like he'd come from another world. And the moniker is stuck. So I guess basically what I just said. Great player. Great player. He's 20 years old. If I'm the Yankees, Dominguez is playing center field next year. I can build around this. I got Judge and Wright. I'm putting a 20-year-old, maybe 21 when the season starts, not sure. Dominguez in center. I'll figure out left field. Let me take a look at something. Peraza and Volpe both got to play. Let's see what else I want to look at here. I'm going to look at some of the kids here too. Maybe Everson Pereira might be the left fielder. I find a way to get rid of Stanton, eat the contract. I'll bring DJ back because DJ's valuable to have around. He hasn't had a great year again this year, but he's fairly cost effective, relatively speaking. And I bring him back. Glaber, I may move for a pitcher. And I let Peraza play second base. Or maybe I play Peraza at shortstop, move Volpe to shortstop because Peraza is a better defensive player at shortstop. I give Austin Wells a shot at the catchers to win the catcher's job in spring, assuming he gets his defensive prowess up a little bit. He's improved a lot this year. I find a way to get Rondon off this team. I hope Nestor gets healthy. I got to get some pitchers. Severino's pitched well recently, but now I'm scared. He pitched well the end of last year. Can't afford to have him implode for 3/4 of the year. I'm building around kids, Aaron Judge. Kids and Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole. That's what I'm building this team around. Bring him some smart free agents for a change. And develop some kids. Fun show today. Got to figure out my fantasy baseball. I might have to make some moves today too. You know, it's funny. I use the phone all the time, Rick, and I find it very easy. But if you're not used to using it, probably not. I use my phone almost every day. It's harder for football for me. Well, actually, it's not. I figured out how to navigate it pretty good on the phone, I guess. But it's wherever you're comfortable. But you have a great day. Thanks for the kudos, and thanks for popping in. Take your blood pressure medicine. Have an old fashioned. I had some nice brandy by the fire last night. It was nice. It was nice. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you, everybody. John Gonzalez, Kenny, Billy, Anthony, CA. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks to the great Jim Beringer. If I missed somebody, I apologize. I know we talked a lot of college football today, but college football is going to become a big part of this show. Obviously, with the season started, probably won't do as much as we did today. But the NFL, we got to find more time to talk about, and we're going to have baseball for another 2 months as well. So, 2.5 months. We'll have some scheduling announcements for you guys coming up, as I will be going on vacation. Probably going to miss a couple Fridays, a couple Sundays, but we'll try to get in those days for shorter versions of our show. But we'll do some stuff, and I'll keep you guys apprised of what it is. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Have a great remainder, of your Labor Day weekend. Keith Engel here for TGI Sports Talk Sunday, Stream of Consciousness. See you all guys next Sunday, and I'll see you Wednesday with Jim Beringer for the college football.